Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto finds Wind Jutsu Scrolls part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Uzumaki Naruto. In the academy of the village hidden in the leaves, a young boy with blonde hair and bright blue eyes jumped in surprise, clutching a small stack of papers tightly in his fists. He'd been waiting in line for hours, it seemed like, and he'd zoned out a while ago. He hadn't even noticed when the girl in front of him went in. Quickly scurrying forward into the examination room, he passed by the girl, wiping furiously at her eyes and sniffling. The room inside was typical academy fare, as far as Naruto was concerned. A row of benches and desks sloping down to an open area at the bottom that the instructor had set up his desk at, a chalkboard, a few boxes of currently unused school supplies, and not much else. Naruto quickly bounded down the stairs two at a time, coming to a halt right in front of the instructor's desk and thrusting his papers in the man's face. The instructor, an aged chunin with a bandana wrapped around his head and full chunin getup, took them with an amused grin. Naruto bounced eagerly on the balls of his feet while the man looked them over, more than ready to ace this test and take his first step to becoming a real-life ninja. After an eternity of waiting, the chunin instructor nodded sharply and shifted the paperwork to the side and stood up, walking around his desk to the middle of the open floor, gesturing for Naruto to follow. Now, this test is rather simple, he explained. All you need to do is perform the ram's seal and channel your chakra. I'll take care of the rest, he winked. Naruto eagerly nodded, and the instructor carefully showed him how to form the seal, poking and prodding at his hands until he was satisfied. Stepping back, he crossed his arms. Now close your eyes and relax. Make sure you keep your hands in that position and turn your focus inward. When your stomach starts tingling, I want you to tell me, okay? The chunin asked. Naruto nodded firmly, eyes clenched tightly shut, and focused. At first he didn't feel anything. Just the aching in his feet from standing in line so long and the queasy feeling in his stomach from eating too much ramen and the wind drifting in through the window. After a minute he started to panic, just a bit. He felt a bead of sweat burn a trail down his whiskered cheek, felt the queasy feeling in his stomach intensify, felt the instructor's gaze burning a hole through his head. And then he felt it. Ivy got it, he whispered, relief flooding through him. It wasn't exactly like the instructor had said. It didn't tingle in his stomach, instead making him feel light and sorta giddy, like that one time that masked ninja carried him across the rooftops to the Hokage Tower. A hand suddenly came to rest on his right shoulder, and he heard the instructor speak, voice distant and echoing. Focus on that feeling, Naruto. Focus on it, and pull. Yes, sensei. Naruto grit his teeth, imagining himself grasping the weightless feeling tightly in his hands. His body tensed, nose scrunching up in concentration, and he pulled. He felt the light sensation spread throughout his entire body in a rush of emotion, heard it roar in his ears as it left his body. The instructor's hand left his shoulder, and a heavy crash managed to force its way past the noise in Naruto's ears. He opened his eyes, startled, and gasped. The room had been wrecked. All of the papers that had been on the chunin's desk were now scattered about the room, some still drifting around lazily, and the contents of the boxes in the corner, several books and dulled kunai, had likewise been dumped on the floor. And the instructor himself, to Naruto's horror, had been thrown backwards into his desk, which now sported a long vertical crack splitting it down the middle. Rushing over to the dazed man's side, Naruto hesitantly shook his shoulder. Sensei? Sensei, are you all right? He stammered. The instructor nodded shortly, gently shaking off Naruto's hand and pushing himself to his feet, surveying the damage the room had sustained. Then he looked down at Naruto, an unreadable expression on his face. Would you mind having a seat in the room across the hall until I'm done with the other children, Naruto? He asked politely. Yeah, sure, Naruto replied nervously. Turning around, he bounded up the steps and out the door, past the curious gaze of a girl with hair and eyes a shade lighter than his own, dressed in purple and white. Slipping into the empty room set up with a big round table surrounded by a bunch of comfortable-looking chairs and a large refrigerator, Naruto flopped down into the nearest seat for all of 5 seconds before he was up and pacing. The clock on the wall said it had only been 20 minutes, but to Naruto it felt like it had been hours by the time the door finally opened. The chunin instructor motioned for Naruto to follow him, and he hurriedly complied. We're going to take a trip to the Hokage Tower, the instructor explained while the two of them walked down the hall towards the exit. Hokage-sama would like to see your chakra himself. Did I do something wrong? Naruto asked quietly. The instructor snorted, reaching down and ruffling his spiky blonde hair. Of course not. You did something different, he said. Naruto stewed on that until they made it out of the academy, and the instructor crouched down, offering him his back. Naruto clambered on, and the instructor reached around with one arm to secure him to his back, and with the other formed a hand seal. Shunshin no Jutsu. Naruto cried out in surprise as the man suddenly shot forward, so fast that Naruto couldn't make out anything but blurred colors. The ride ended as soon as it had begun, and the instructor lowered Naruto carefully to the ground, keeping a firm hand on his shoulder so he didn't fall, and directed him into the towering red tower that the Hokage and his most trusted operated in. Quickly finding his senses, Naruto turned odd eyes up at the man. "What was that, sensei?" he asked. The instructor chuckled, letting go of him and heading for the stairs. "That was the body flicker. It's one of many D-rank jutsu you'll be learning if you graduate and become a genin." "If he says," Naruto muttered, hurrying to keep up with the man's long stride. They traveled the rest of the way up the tower in silence, and anxiety began bubbling anew in the pit of Naruto's stomach. The man had said he hadn't done anything wrong, just different, but that wasn't necessarily a good thing. They finally reached the top floor of the tower, and made their way past the waiting room and the Hokage's secretary, who merely nodded them through. The instructor knocked sharply thrice on the door, and the Hokage's familiar voice drifted through the sturdy wood, calling them in. The Hokage's office was just as Naruto remembered it. Adorned with several shelves filled to the brim with scrolls, 3 straight-backed chairs in front of the Hokage's desk, and the Hokage's desk itself, an ornate oak piece that stretched nearly wall to wall covered in scrolls and stack of paperwork. The old man himself sat back in his seat, staring contemplatively at Naruto, Hokage hat and robes securely on his person. The 2 masked shinobi standing on either side of his desk were new. Naruto peered curiously at their unusual uniforms. Instead of the pure black clothing he was used to seeing, theirs had patches of muted green mixed in. And their masks were different too. They were even stranger than the usual fare. One was decorated sorta like a cat, with big pointy ears and strange markings around its eyes and mouth. The other was completely blank, a plain white oval that somehow managed to creep Naruto out even more than the freaky cat. "Ah, Naruto, it's good to see you again," the old man greeted warmly. Naruto quickly turned away from the 2 strange-looking shinobi and offered him a grin. "Hey, old man." "By your leave, sir," the instructor spoke up behind him. The Sandaime nodded genially. "Of course, Izumo. Thank you for escorting Naruto here safely." The Chunin bowed, turning to leave. Naruto's eyes widened and he quickly lunged to catch the man's sleeve. I just wanted to say sorry again," he mumbled in answer to the man's curious look. "I didn't mean to, throw you into your desk and stuff," he trailed off lamely, looking down at his sandals. A moment later a hand was ruffling his hair, and he looked up to see Izumo smirking at him. "No problem, kiddo," he said. Then he turned and walked out the door, closing it softly behind him. "So Naruto," the old man said, "Izumo told me your attempt at channeling chakra yielded some unusual results. Could you try channeling some more for us?" "Are you sure?" Naruto asked doubtfully. Wrecking the academy classroom had been bad enough, but what would happen to him if he ruined the Hokage's office? The Sandaime just nodded, smilingly reassuringly, and Naruto found himself forming the ram seal once again and focusing on the feeling of giddy weightlessness in his gut. This time he knew what he was looking for, and he also knew how to coax it out, so when the feeling sped out of his body this time the roar in his ears was replaced with the sound of ruffled clothing and scrolls. He cracked one eye open and found the room no worse for wear, to his relief. The Sandaime hummed thoughtfully. "Mujina, Bakuniko, if you'd please," he said, and the 2 masked shinobi strode over to Naruto, crouching down and prodding him with glowing green fingers. Naruto took a startled step backwards, but they simply moved forward with him, continuing to poke at different spots on his body. "Don't worry," the old man called. "They're just checking your tenketsu." Well, Naruto didn't know what tenketsu were, but if the old man said they were alright he supposed he'd trust them. For now. After a few uncomfortable minutes the shinobi both abruptly stood up and retreated back to the Hokage's desk. The old man snapped his fingers and suddenly another shinobi melted out of one corner of the room, reaching over Naruto and opening the door. "Go," the man commanded, voice muffled by the mask on his face, and Naruto hurried out. The shinobi walked right by him, past the secretary into the waiting room, where he took up a stance by the doorway. Naruto followed carefully behind. "So which one are you?" Naruto blurted into the silence. The shinobi's mask turned to face Naruto directly, but he didn't otherwise answer. Naruto rolled his eyes and pointed at the mask. "You know, which animal?" For a while it seemed like the shinobi wouldn't say anything, but finally, "Weasel." Naruto scrunched his nose up. "That sucks," he said distastefully. "When I graduate I'm gonna be something really cool, like a lion or a shark." Weasel cocked his head further. "Only Umbu are issued shinobi masks." Naruto stared at him in confusion. "What's an Umbu?" Weasel sighed. By the time Weasel finally led Naruto back into the old man's office, the sun had begun to set, and the queasy fullness in his stomach was long gone. Walking in, Naruto noticed that the two Weirdumbu, as he now knew them to be, had left, leaving the Sandaime by himself. The Hokage was currently facing away from them, his chair swiveled to look out at the village through the office's large windows. Wispy trails of smoke floated up above the chair, and the smell of tobacco hung in the air. "Have a seat, Naruto," the old man said. Sitting down again was just about the last thing Naruto wanted to do, but the old man sounded serious, and when old man Hokage got serious you listened. Period. So he grabbed a seat and waited. "Thank you, Weasel. That will be all." Naruto twisted in his seat, a goodbye on his lips, but found the shinobi had already disappeared. Huh. Naruto. He whipped around to see the Sandaime staring at him with an unreadable expression. "What does being a shinobi mean to you?" Naruto blinked. What? What does being a shinobi mean to you?" The Sandaime patiently repeated. "Why do you wish to be one? Why would you rather be a shinobi than a blacksmith or a cook?" "Because ninja are awesome," Naruto said enthusiastically. "They can breathe fire like dragons and break trees with their fists and teleport like Izumo-sensei. They get to save princesses and beat up bad guys and everyone notices and respects them. Especially the Hokage. And... Is that why you want to be a shinobi, Naruto?" Sarutobi interrupted him softly. "To be noticed and respected?" Naruto sputtered for a moment, eventually shrugging with forced nonchalance under the weight of the man's gaze. "I guess that's one reason," he agreed casually. The Sandaime raised an eyebrow. "Do you want to know why I became a shinobi, Naruto?" Naruto nodded eagerly, of course. "I became a shinobi to protect Konoha." The blonde child's eyebrows furrowed. Don't they all do that?" "To some extent, yes," Sarutobi agreed. "But some desire fame first and foremost. Or money or power," the old man peered down at him. "Some desire respect." Naruto averted his eyes, feeling guilty for reasons he couldn't even understand. "There's nothing wrong with desiring such things," the Hokage assured him, allowing Naruto to relax. "But I worry that they won't provide the incentive you need." "Why?" Naruto asked curiously. Sarutobi drummed his fingers pensively on the desk, a thoughtful expression on his face. Then he rose and beckoned for Naruto to follow, turning and cracking open the window behind his desk. "Hop on, Naruto." And for the second time that day Naruto scrambled up onto a piggyback ride with the shinobi. This time, however, they didn't travel with a super cool jutsu. Instead, the Hokage stepped up onto the windowsill, crouched, and leaped across Konoha towards the Hokage mountain. Naruto shrieked in surprise as they soared above Konoha's nighttime inhabitants, cringing when the Yandaime's sculpted head came into view. Yet, amazingly, the Hokage landed light as a feather on one of the sculpture's spiky locks. He crouched again, allowing Naruto to slide off his back and collapse into a sitting position. Once Naruto had regained his wits, for the second time that day, he turned to chew out the old man only to find him staring ahead. "Look, Naruto." Grudgingly, Naruto turned towards Konoha. And his breath froze in his throat. He'd never seen it from a bird's eye view, he dimly realized. It had always been a street view for him, or a roof view depending on who he was with. But he'd never seen it all laid out in front of him before. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen before. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" Naruto jumped. "They?" "The trees," the Hokage said, and when Naruto looked again he realized that while he'd been staring at the thousands of little people darting around below he'd missed the towering trees covering nearly half the village. He felt awe as he traced a simply enormous one that curled up and over the academy, covering it in a protective canopy of leaves. "Wow," he breathed. The Sandaime chuckled softly beside him. Indeed. The two stayed that way for a long while, marveling at the village they called home until the sun had disappeared completely, and the moon had begun to rise. Finally, Naruto reluctantly broke away from his inspection of a group of umbu bouncing around the village via rooftop, craning his neck to look at the Sandaime, who was still standing there with a peaceful expression on his face. "Hey, old man?" he asked quietly. The Sandaime hummed, which he took as a sign to go on. "Why'd you bring us here?" "I wanted you to see why I became a shinobi." Understanding bloomed on the boy's face, and he turned to look at Konoha again, this time in a different light. "To protect all of this?" The Sandaime's lips curled into a small smile at the baffled expression on his face. "All of it," he said simply. "How?" "I had help," Sarutobi admitted. "Look at those trees, look at how they shield Konoha, hiding her from those that might wish her harm." He ordered, and Naruto obliged. The Shodaime Hokage created them. He nodded seriously when the boy whipped around to gape at him. Look at those rivers, at that waterfall. He pointed towards the area of the village where the training grounds resided. Those were made by the Naruto Hokage, and have kept water in every villager's home for decades. What did you do, old man? Naruto asked wonderingly. Sarutobi's smile widened. I kept it all safe through 3 great wars. 3? Naruto said incredulously. I'm certainly old enough to have lived through them all, am I not? The Sandaime responded in amusement. Naruto considered that for a moment, eventually nodding in acceptance. So what does that have to do with he trailed off, face scrunched up in frustration. Incentive? The Sandaime smirked. Yeah, that? What's it have to do with my incentive to be a ninja? Sarutobi frowned, returning his attention to Konoha. You have a chakra defect, Naruto, he revealed, and Naruto could have sworn his heart stopped. A what? He asked, horrified. Your chakra is different from the average shinobi. Instead of the regular brand used to perform genjutsu and similar arts, it's elemental in nature. What do you mean? Sarutobi sighed at the question. Channeling elemental chakra is a skill that most shinobi spend years attempting to accomplish in order to perform special ninjutsu. It is a complicated process that involves morphing one's chakra to closely resemble their element of choice. Yours has skipped that stage entirely. Isn't that a good thing? Sarutobi grimaced at the desperation in the small boy's voice. In some regards, yes, he agreed. But with only wind nature chakra at your disposal, you will be unable to perform even the simplest genjutsu and ninjutsu not directly related to the element. Fuinjutsu will also likely be out of your reach. Naruto exhaled shakily, attempting to process the man's words. He'd never heard of Fuinjutsu, and genjutsu only vaguely rang a bell, but he couldn't use ninjutsu. How was he supposed to become Hokage if he couldn't use ninjutsu? How was he even supposed to become a ninja? What can I do? His head dipped, bangs fell over his eyes, and his tone was bleak. Sarutobi frowned. You can stop sulking first of all, he said, voice hard. Naruto lifted his head quickly, staring up at Sarutobi, shocked. Just because you're at a disadvantage doesn't mean that you can't still achieve your dream. Don't ever think otherwise, he said sternly. Naruto nodded slowly. But how can I? There are other arts for you to learn. Taijutsu, the shinobi art of hand-to-hand combat, even more essential a skill than ninjutsu, requires no chakra given the right style. Likewise, kenjutsu, the shinobi art of weaponry, relies only on your determination to exceed. Stealth, a skill that every shinobi worth their title possesses, doesn't require any chakra either. The Sandaime crossed his arms across his chest. Do you see where I'm going with this, Naruto? I think so, Naruto said slowly. As long as I work really hard, I can still be a ninja? The Sandaime's hard expression softened, and he nodded. Exactly. Now hop on, these old bones can't take the cold. Naruto giggled and nodded, quickly wiping at his eyes and jumping on the old man's back once again for the return trip. This time he managed to hold himself to an exhilarated whoop as they soared through the sky towards the Hokage's office. When they were safely indoors, Sarutobi allowed Naruto to drop and collapse back into his chair with a relieved sigh. Naruto, meanwhile, bounced around in front of the desk, too giddy with excitement and something else he couldn't identify to sit down. Sarutobi coughed firmly, expression serious once more, and Naruto forced himself to calm down and listen. To answer your question, Naruto, I brought you to the Hokage Mountain to show you what the right goals can accomplish. The Shodaime, the Nidaime, and myself all strove to protect Konoha above all else. We accepted nothing less than a prosperous village, and so that's what we got. If you truly wish to become a shinobi, to overcome your handicap and excel despite it, a simple desire for respect won't be enough. Naruto fidgeted, conflicted, but the Sandaime didn't give him a chance to speak. I'm going to make you a deal, Naruto. The same deal I made with a boy a year older than you with a similar problem, Rock Lee. Sarutobi stated. I'll enroll you in the academy if that is still your wish, and I'll make sure the instructors don't penalize you for not being able to perform the required ninjutsu, genjutsu, and fuinjutsu. And if when the day comes for you to graduate you are at the top of your class in taijutsu, kenjutsu, and stealth, and you can present me with a desire to be one worthy of a future Hokage, you will be made a shinobi. The Sandaime leaned forward, smiling conspiratorially. I'll even give you a special scroll from my library as a reward for your hard work. Really? Naruto cried, leaning forward and nearly headbutting the Hokage in his excitement, who merely leaned back and laughed. Of course, he assured. So, what do you say? I say you've got a deal, Naruto reached out and grabbed the old man's hand off the table in a hearty handshake. I'm glad, Sarutobi said sincerely. Your first class will be a week from now, and I expect you to make a very good first impression with your instructor. You got it, old man. Now then, if all of that is settled, I think it's about time we got you home, he said. I'm sure Mrs. Wakayama is worried sick about your absence. Naruto rolled his eyes at the mention of his crazy caretaker but followed the Hokage out of his office nonetheless. They traveled at a leisurely stroll, an appreciated change from the day's previous means of transport. Naruto looked around at everything with new eyes, the amazing view from the Hokage Mountains still burning in his mind. They were just reaching the district that housed Naruto's orphanage when a thought occurred to the young boy. Hey old man, what did the Yondaime do for Konoha? He asked. Sarutobi glanced at him thoughtfully for a moment. He did more than any of his predecessors, he answered quietly. He saved Konoha from annihilation 7 years ago, sacrificing his life to defeat a demon bent on her destruction. Whoa! Naruto twisted his head to stare at the Yondaime's monument with something like hero worship shining in his eyes. And in doing so he missed the look the Sandaime gave him, one of deep sadness and regret. Naruto was just about bouncing in his seat at the academy. The agonizing week of waiting finally passed. While other kids his age around him chatted about this or that, he daydreamed about all of the super cool taijutsu moves he'd be learning, and all the awesome kenjutsu stuff as well. Stealth didn't sound quite as cool, but he'd find a way to make it fun, or his name wasn't Uzumaki Naruto. Excitement and determination both flowed through him like chakra, leaving him feeling giddy and light. Or maybe that was his chakra. Pausing, Naruto glanced around and sure enough saw hair ruffling and papers rustling from his unconscious channeling of chakra. Closing his eyes quickly, he focused on pushing the feel of his chakra back into his body, relaxing only when the last little bit had been contained. He'd have to be careful about that, he realized. Fortunately, any mood-killing concerns with his strange chakra were quickly shoved into the farthest recess of his mind when the door opened below and a man wearing a chunin vest sporting a spiky hairdo walked in. Immediately the conversations in the room died down, the other kids turning their attention just as expectantly on the man as Naruto. Hello students, he greeted cheerfully. Walking over to the solitary desk in the room he dropped a stack of papers he'd been carrying, and then reached down and grabbed an armful of textbooks from a box next to the desk. He quickly set about climbing the stairs and handing each student a textbook. Naruto practically snatched his own copy out of the man's hand, earning himself an amused grin for his troubles. He immediately cracked open the book and started flipping through the pages. Once all of the books had been handed out, the man returned to his desk and grabbed a sheet of paper from the pile. He began reading names off of the apparent attendance list with practiced ease. When it came to be Naruto's turn he found he was too absorbed in the book to do his awesome introduction he'd planned, instead simply waving his hand in the air. He wasn't actually reading it, per se, more looking through the pictures provided, but man were they some interesting pictures. Now then, my name is Yumino Irika, and I'm going to be your instructor for the next 5 years. The instructor introduced himself, receiving a chorus of hellos from the class. First of all, those textbooks are all yours to keep, and will cost extra to replace. So take good care of them. You'll be getting a new one every year, but for now that's all you've got, he said firmly. We've got a lot of material to cover before your graduation, so today is going to be a brief overview on everything we'll be doing. I'll also be answering any questions you may have, and after lunch we'll take a trip outside to the training grounds you'll be using to practice your various shinobi arts. Naruto perked up at that, but a quick glance at the clock assured him that lunch wasn't for a long time still, and as Irika-sensei launched into the various different subjects they'd be covering, Naruto found himself turning back to his book. His eyes traced over the various pictures of hand seals and taijutsu stances and the like, occasionally skimming the text below the pictures if they were particularly interesting. Time passed like this, Irika-sensei babbling on about something or the other and a few students here and there asking questions, when Naruto alighted on a picture that instantly had him raising his hand. Yes, Naruto? Irika asked. Naruto held up his book and eagerly pointed to the picture that had caught his attention, a small illustration of 2 Anbu dressed in muted green and black with strange, demonic-looking masks. Who are these guys? Irika raised an eyebrow. Can I get a page number? Oh yeah? 266, Naruto supplied, feeling his cheeks heat up as a few snickers reached his ears. Irika walked back to his desk and picked up a textbook of his own, flipping through the pages. You mean the Anbu? He asked, surprised. Naruto nodded. Yeah, they look different than the regular kind. Irika nodded in understanding. Ah, I see. These particular Anbu belong to a special division that exists solely to combat bijou and similar demonic threats called the Yokai Corps, he explained. They're a very selective bunch. I don't even know what is required to become one. On the other side of the room, a girl with pink hair quickly raised her hand. What's a bijou, Irika-sensei? She asked curiously. Several students nodded along with her question, the word demonic having easily sparked their interest. Irika crossed his arms, humming thoughtfully. Well, I was planning on saving that particular subject until after lunch, he said slowly. But I suppose I could do that now and go over the rest of the year's subjects later, if you'd all like. Unanimous agreement was his answer. All right then. Why don't you all turn to page 267? Naruto turned the page once, and was greeted by the sight of an enormous ugly creature hurling what looked like sand at a bunch of tiny ninja. Bijou are going to be a very important topic throughout this year and every year following, so for now I'll just give you the basics. The bijou are 9 beings that are so powerful many refer to them as natural disasters. Each is the size of a small village, and one by itself has been proven to be destructive enough to wipe out miles of land at a time with their attacks. Each bijou belongs to an element, of which they have complete and total control over. The Ichibi, as you can see, deals in sand. Part of the reason they're such big problems is that very control over their element. It makes a shinobi's job a lot more difficult when the very ground beneath their feet is working against them. Bijou also have the uncanny ability to flee into their element when threatened, so capturing them is impossible. Irika's expression softened, seeing the rapidly growing horror on the children's faces. You all don't have anything to worry about, though, he assured. The Yokai Corps are very good at their job. The pink-haired girl raised her hand again, if a bit hesitantly. Yes, Sakura? Irika asked. How do the Yokai Corps combat the bijou, exactly? There was a slight tremor in the girl's voice, but she tried valiantly to hide it. Irika smiled reassuringly at her. A very good question, he complimented. As I said before, the Yokai Corps are a very secretive bunch, but from what I understand they operate primarily through an extremely impressive level of teamwork. Their main purpose is to keep bijou away from Konoha, and they do this very well by using group ninjutsu and mass containment techniques to scare the bijou away. Any more questions? My mom told me the Kyuubi attacked Konoha 7 years ago, and the Yondaime had to sacrifice himself to kill it, a boy in front of Naruto with messy brown hair and glasses said matter-of-factly. Why didn't the Yokai Corps scare it away? Irika sighed sadly, leaning back on his desk. It was not because of a lack of effort, he said after a few moments. Something that you all need to understand is that the power of the bijou varies greatly. A theory has been made that the number of tails they possess is an indicator of this, but there's little evidence to that fact other than the Kyuubi, which has the greatest amount of tails and the greatest amount of power. The Yokai Corps can only do so much, and in the end the Kyuubi was just too strong for them to contain or scare off. Their ninjutsu, their traps, everything. It was all useless against what some call the Lord of the Bijou. Irika explained solemnly. The Yondaime was forced to sacrifice himself because the Kyuubi would have wiped out Konoha in its entirety otherwise. He shook his head. We'll be going over that and other things related to bijou in due time, but I think for now that should suffice. How does an early lunch sound? There were some scattered nods and muttered acceptances, but for the most part the children were all still trying to take in this new, scary information. Naruto, meanwhile, quickly flipped through the pages in his textbook while the other kids gathered up their lunches and headed for the door, ignoring the various different bijou on display until he reached the 9th and final bijou. An entire page had been taken up by the illustration. That of an enormous, snarling fox with hateful crimson eyes and 9 lashing tails crouched in the middle of what looked like a hurricane. Trees the size of toothpicks whipped around the raging beast, and the very clouds above it were being dragged down from the sky into what looked like a tornado. Naruto's eyes flickered down to the caption. Kyuubi no Kitsun. Bijou of Wind. Uzumaki Naruto's shinobi goals, the scroll reads, unfurled on the stone of the Yondaime's head. That's all it reads. My brush taps against one of the Yondaime's locks in a steady beat. I haven't even bothered dipping it in ink yet. I scowl at the mostly blank scroll, at the barrier it represents between myself and a Konoha headband. It's been 5 years since I started the academy, and 5 years since the deal I made with the old man. 5 years of staring at a blank scroll hoping for an epiphany. This is so stupid, I hiss. My chakra control slips and a low, moaning wind kicks up, ruffling my hair and sending my scroll rolling merrily right off the side of the Hokage mountain. I groan, dropping my head in my hands. I'm screwed. I'm completely and utterly screwed. Tomorrow is graduation day and I still don't have anything to tell the Sandaime. Why can't I just write Protect Konoha and be done with it? I mumble. It would be so easy. All it would take is a new scroll and some ink and a convincing smile. Boom, shinobi. Easy as 1, 2, 3. So why can't I? I peek through my fingers at Konoha, at the legacy of all the Hokage. It would be easy to lie to the old man, to tell him I want to protect Konoha and all of its inhabitants. Easy to cheat my way out of our deal. He'd nod and smile proudly and hand me my headband himself. I'd rise through the ranks, and one day he'd give me his hat too. I'd be Konoha's newest protector, the one shinobi that everyone respected. And it would all be a lie. I sigh, leaning back and uncrossing my legs. I can just make out Konoha's business district from here, the one area of the village still active this late at night or early in the morning, as it were. The bars in particular are still alive with lights and drunken patrons, and my mind easily supplies a slew of shouting and laughter to go along with the imagery. My eyes track a chunin, walking slowly towards one bar in particular. I watch as he slips in through the wooden doors, shoulders slumped. And I watch as not a minute later he stumbles right back out, a small, portly man following right along and shoving the exhausted shinobi until he stumbles and collapses in the dirt. He stomps back into the bar, leaving the chunin to struggle to his feet and shuffle away. My teeth grind. That fat asshole doesn't deserve my life. He doesn't deserve Old Man Hokage's life. None of them do. They don't deserve a single drop of my blood, a single. Naruto. Gah! I whip around, on my feet, one hand already clenched tightly around a shuriken from my weapon's pouch. And I see none other than Uchiha Sasuke, my greatest and most unwanted rival, standing at the top of the steps that encircle the Hokage mountain. What are you doing here, Uchiha? I demand. The scowl that appears on his face gives me a lot more satisfaction than it probably should. There isn't a lot that gets under his skin every time. Don't call me that, he snaps. Seriously though, why are you here? I ask. He rolls his eyes and walks forward, sitting down beside me. I couldn't sleep, he admits. I'm too. Nervous? I smirk. Excited, he smoothly counters. So you figured you'd come bother me instead? Sasuke shrugs, staring down at Konoha. What are the ink and brush for? He asks. My eyes flicker down to the brush still held in my right hand, inside the ring of the shuriken, idly spinning it. I'm practicing my kanji, I tell him casually. Where's your scroll, then? Rolled over the edge, I answer truthfully. HN. Yeah, go HN yourself, I mutter, plucking the shuriken off my brush and shoving it back in my pouch. I crack open the ink blot and dip the brush in, shifting so as to face one particularly spiky lock of the yondame's stone hair. It's no scroll, but it'll do. I don't have anything in particular to write, but I've seen enough of Konoha for one night or morning. So I draw seals. First a basic storage seal, the first seal Irika-sensei ever showed us. Then a seal to mute sense. A heating seal. An artificial lighting seal. A chakra-absorbing seal. I'm just beginning the first brush strokes for a certain spiraling seal when Sasuke is suddenly leaning over me, a strange look on his face. He reaches out and touches a hand to my storage seal, lighting it up blue with chakra. He moves down the line, lighting each of the seals up except for the chakra-absorbing seal, which glows a malevolent red as it sucks his chakra up. He leans back, a nonplussed look on his face. Do I pass? I ask dryly. How do you know all those seals? I pay attention in class, I deadpan. Sasuke shakes his head and jabs a finger at the chakra-absorbing seal. That was never covered in the academy. He gestures at the beginnings of my last seal. And none of the seals Irika-sensei showed us had spirals in them either. He cocks his head. Besides, you can't even use seals. Why go through the trouble of learning them? God, he's such a prick. Well, Uchiha, I begin, drawing the name out slowly, much to my rival's ire. As you just proved, I can still lay down all the groundwork even if I can't directly activate them myself. And in case you didn't notice, seals can do pretty much anything. Maybe I'm looking for a seal that can fix my chakra. The real reason for my rabid research of Fuinjutsu burns from its place on my stomach. Sasuke scoffs, but turns back to Konoha nonetheless. I roll my eyes, drop my brush into my pocket, and shove the used ink blot into the still glowing storage seal on the yondame's hair. I stand up and stretch, earning myself several immensely satisfying pops and cracks. Time to turn in, I think. I'll see you tomorrow, Sasuke, I say, shooting him a mocking salute and heading for the stairs. Why were you really here? Sasuke asks. I freeze. You wouldn't come up here for something as simple as practicing kanji. I turn to face him, features carefully neutral. How would you know? He rolls his eyes. I know, you idiot. Not well enough, I retort. Turning on my heel, I continue for the stairs. Is it the deal? Damn. I deflate, the air rushing out of me in an enormous sigh. Yeah. I don't see what there is to worry about. Just tell the Sandaime you want to be the Godaime Hokage someday and be done with it, he offers. I lean back against the face of the Hokage mountain, crossing my arms. That won't be enough and you know it. I can't just do this halfway. Maybe he'd accept something like that, but it wouldn't be right. My goal as a shinobi has to mean something. Something important. I can't accept anything less. I explain in frustration. Sasuke turns back to Konoha, a tense silence falling over the two of us. I'm considering just calling it a day and leaving when his voice drifts over his shoulder. You know why I want to be a shinobi? I blink at the question. To surpass your brother, right? It's not entirely a guess. Sasuke has said something similar several times before, after, or even during our daily spars. Even so, I can just barely make out his shaking head in the darkness of the early morning. Close. He cranes his neck, staring at me with hard eyes. My goal as a shinobi is to separate myself from Uchiha Itachi, from Uchiha Fugaku, and from the Uchiha clan as a whole. My goal is to become a shinobi all my own. That goal wouldn't mean much of anything to the Sandaime, but it means something to me. That's all that matters in the end, he says quietly. He leans back, resting his head on his linked hands. Good night, Naruto. I nod slowly, for once accepting a clear dismissal without a retort, and make my way down the steps. I have a lot to think about. Ruto, wake up. I roll over, cracking an eye open and peeking blearily at the alarm clock on my nightstand. The blocky red numbers read 7:30. Like hell. My eye closes. Naruto. Get out of my apartment, I mumble. A firm hand claps my ear, snapping my head to the side. I open my eyes and fix my intruder with a dangerous look. The black-haired, black-eyed intruder stares right back, unfazed. He holds out a steaming cup of ramen. Tomatoes are under the sink, I grunt, sitting up and snatching the ramen from his hands and gulping it down in one go. I toss the woefully empty cup amongst its brethren in the trash can beside my bed and scrub at the gunk in my eyes. You hid them there last time. Sasuke's tone is carefully blank, but I've dealt with him long enough to detect the subtle annoyance hidden therein. I throw the covers off me and stretch, smirking. Yup. I head for the bathroom, grabbing a towel from off the floor along the way. A quick shower and a bit of dental upkeep later, I walk out, throw on my baggy orange pants and black Konoha emblazoned t-shirt, and leave for the kitchen. Sasuke's there sitting at the table, dressed in the same plain white shorts and high-collared blue t-shirt as yesterday, Konoha headband practically shining on his head, plowing through my produce like a man possessed. I grab the pot of pre-prepared ramen off the stove and grab myself a bowl and some chopsticks. So what is it this time? I ask, leaning against the counter and twirling up some noodles. Sasuke swallows, hitting me with his clan's patented smirk. Felt like stopping by. One of these days, Uchiha. One of these days. You're pushing it. I shovel some ramen in my mouth, absently grabbing my weapons pouch from off the top of the fridge and dumping its contents on the counter beside me. 10 shuriken, 5 kunai, and about 15 senbon. I'll have to stop by Kaji's soon. Taking one last gulp of broth, I place the bowl in the sink and pack up my gear. Nabbing my sandals from the living room along with my apartment keys, I head for the door. Let's go. I don't trust you alone with my groceries. Sasuke slinks out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on his shirt. Might as well get this done sooner rather than later, I mumble. Sasuke doesn't even wait for me to lock the door before he disappears in a body flicker, leaving me to make the walk myself. What a guy. I make a quick stop along the way, buying some sweet rolls from a vendor. I've gone through 2 of the 3 by the time the academy finally comes into view in all its stony glory. I toss my final roll to the Chunin keeping guard at the gates, prompting him to crack them open for me despite the early hour. I head in, idly wondering what Sasuke bribed him with. Or maybe he just snuck by. Wouldn't surprise me. The academy hallways are as familiar to me as my apartment at this point, more so even, and I navigate them with practiced ease. I bypass Irika-sensei's classroom entirely in favor of the bulletin board kept next to the instructor's office, where Sasuke just so happens to be waiting for me, a smug look on his face. I beat you. I'm not quite sure if the cracking sound comes from my heart or my dreams. What? I shove past him and search frantically through the various flyers. Finally, I alight on the 7 documents that had been haunting my dreams for the past month. Academy graduate class rankings. I bypassed the ninjutsu sheet entirely, instead focusing on the stealth sheet. First in class, Uzumaki Naruto. Second in class, Uchiha Sasuke. Taijutsu. First in class, Uzumaki Naruto. Second in class, Uchiha Sasuke. A lead weight settles in my stomach. Somehow, I'm not surprised that Kenjutsu was what tripped me up in the end. I can barely hit the bullseye consistently, and Sasuke has been flaunting those fancy deflection tricks since third year. I scan up the Kenjutsu sheet, morbidly curious as to how close I came. Second in class, Uchiha Sasuke. First in class, Uzumaki Naruto. Wait. Behind me, Sasuke snorts. I was talking about the Rookie of the Year spot. You came in second. Well, of course you beat me overall, I say incredulously. I gesture wildly at the 3 sheets labeled ninjutsu, genjutsu, and fuinjutsu. I can't even do 3 of the 6 arts we were graded on. I was never in the running in the first place. I slump against the wall, sighing shakily. Don't scare me like that. Want a hug? I'll cut you. Sasuke beckons. Come on, let's go find out who our third teammate is. I raise an eyebrow. What makes you so sure they'll put us on the same team? Why not split up the top 2 and make the teams more balanced? I ask, pushing off the wall and following after my kinda sorta rival friend. We have the best teamwork out of any other pairing in our class. Even the Ino Shikacho group can't touch us during team drills. The Hokage would have to be an idiot not to put us together. Sasuke explains blithely. So who do you think our third teammate is going to be, then? I ask, half sarcastic and half curious. Sasuke shrugs. Probably a kunoichi of some sort. Maybe that Hyuga girl. We're the first to arrive in the classroom, to be expected considering the god-awful hour I was woken up at, and Sasuke takes his customary seat by the window while I rummage through Irika-sensei's desk. Finally, I yank free a worn blue textbook with a triumphant cry. Hopping up the tables, I collapse onto the bench beside Sasuke, cracking the book open. Why do you always do that? I look up from my page flipping, startled. Huh? Sasuke waves a hand at the book. Every day before class for the last 2 months. You grab the third-year textbook from Irika's desk and read it until class starts, sometimes after if the material is dull enough. Why not just read it on your own time? My eyes flicker down to said book and the large illustration of a wispy purple cat I just turned to. I lost my own copy a while ago, and this edition has the most info on the bijou and the yokai core and stuff. I shrug. It's interesting. Sasuke hums, turning towards the window. Rolling my eyes, I turn back to the chapter I'd flipped on the Nibi, Bijou of Spirit. The rest of our classmates start filing in not long after, and soon enough everyone is here but Irika-sensei. I do my best to read through the chaos, flicking back to the start of the chapter for another read-through. There's something about this particular entry that keeps eating at me, something important. My stomach burns. The Nibi no Nikomata is the most mysterious of the 9 bijou, even more so than the Gobi, whose paranoia is legendary. It is so because of its element, or what is assumed to be its element. Spirits, while not fitting the traditional term, work well enough in the series of patterns the bijou seem to follow. It is not known how the Nibi's control over spirits works, which makes it potentially even more dangerous than a bijou such as the Hachibi. There are almost no first-hand sightings of the Nibi in action because of this obscure, nearly always fatal power. What we have been able to glean from this, however, is that the Nibi possesses the ability to literally rip the life out of a person if it makes physical contact, no matter how brief. It is said that it can also reanimate the bodies of the dead with spirits of its choice, turning a once great shinobi into little more than a snarling animal in the blink of an eye. Many have speculated over possible connections between the Nibi and the Shinigami, but it is not clear. Good morning, class. Irika-sensei calls, striding through the door at the ground level with a few papers clutched in his hands, as per usual. I discreetly close his textbook and slip it under the desk, to be returned later, as he shuffles some papers on his desk. Then he looks up, right at me, and gestures for me to come over. Well, crap. I hop down the steps and approach the desk, smiling brightly. What's up, Irika-sensei? The Hokage wants to see you, Naruto, Irika says quietly. My innocent smile vanishes. Don't worry, I'll grab my book after class. Good luck. He reaches out and clasps my shoulder. I nod slowly. As I'm leaving, I can hear the change in his tone, hear the pride leaking through. Well, this is it. As of this day, you're all Konoha shinobi, and every single one of you has earned it. I shut the door forcefully behind me, exhaling slowly. I set off at a brisk walk, surveying everything around me carefully, imprinting it into my memory. This is probably going to be the last time I walk these halls for a long, long time. One way or another. The Hokage will see you. The vanilla Umbu pushes the door open and steps aside. It behind me with a quiet, ominous click as I walk in. The old man is there behind his desk, as always, Hokage robes and hat donned and pipe within arm's reach. Except now his expression is flat, serious. The old man I know and love doesn't exist right now. Alright Uzumaki, go time. Old man, I say with a respectful nod. Wait. Damn. That didn't sound like Hokage-sama at all. Naruto, he replies with a nod of his own. Alright, that's enough screw-ups for one life-altering meeting. Time to shut up. Have you seen your academy results yet? He asks. Yes, sir. Better. The Sandaime quirks an eyebrow but continues nonetheless. So you know that you've passed the academy with first place marks in all of your relevant shinobi arts, just as you promised you would. Very impressive, I must say, he compliments. I grin, just a little. However, there is still one more thing I require of you before I can declare you a shinobi of Konoha. He steeples his fingers, Hokage hat casting eerie shadows over his features. Do you have an answer for me, Naruto? I slowly nod. Let's hear it then. I rock back on the balls of my feet, close my eyes, and focus on the flow of my chakra. Instantly the giddy, weightless feeling pools in my stomach. It calms the nerves that have been eating at me for months, if only for a moment. I open my eyes. My goal as a shinobi, I begin, is to become Hokage. The Sandaime's eyes narrow, but I soldier on, Sasuke's words echoing in my head. I want to become strong. Stronger than you, stronger than the Yondaime, stronger than anybody. I want to show the world that even a defective orphan can be a Kage. And I want to learn what you see in Konoha. I want to learn what it is about Konoha that inspired the Hokage to do what they did. I want to make it my own, and to become stronger because of it. I want to understand. How do you intend to do this? He asks softly. My hands clench into fists. I don't know, I finally admit. The words burn like a malformed Katon Jutsu in my throat, leaving behind an ugly taste in my mouth. But I will soon, I swear. I promise, fighting to keep the desperation out of my voice. Do you truly believe you can do these things? He asks, not unkindly. Not just any shinobi can become a Kage, after all. I do, I hastily assure him. I know I'm not strong enough now. I don't know enough about my chakra yet, or about the shinobi arts or any of that stuff, but I can learn. I know I can. I'll work harder, I'll put more time in at the training grounds, I'm going to hold you to that, Naruto, the Sandaime interrupts, reaching behind his desk and pulling out a Konoha headband and a scroll the size of my forearm. I don't even dare breath. I believe this is yours, he says. He offers me the headband with crinkled eyes. Just like that? Were you expecting more? He asks in amusement. I shrug uncomfortably. I guess so. Before the words are even out of my mouth, I want to take them back. I am literally being offered a Konoha headband and I'm standing here questioning it? I really must be as stupid as Sasuke keeps saying. The Sandaime taps a finger on his desk, a thoughtful expression on his face. Have a seat, Naruto. I think it's time I told you a story about my students. I blink in surprise, but quickly sit down nonetheless. I've heard the stories of the famous Sandaime before, or infamous depending on which you were referring to. Everyone has. But hearing it from their sensei himself would be another matter entirely. The day of their graduation, after they'd passed my test, I presented my Team 7 with an offer. An offer of knowledge. I offered to teach them of Konoha's history, of the details of its founding, its victories and its defeats, all of the things that the Academy didn't have time to cover in those days. I offered to teach them of the softer shinobi arts, of politics and music and much, much more. I offered them everything I knew. The Sandaime leans back in his chair, staring at a point above my head. Orochimaru was the Rookie of the Year, and a perfect example of what a shinobi should be. Quiet, cunning, and capable of picking up anything taught to him almost unbelievably quickly. Anything related to ninjutsu, that is. A sad smile tugs at the Sandaime's mouth. He decided before I'd finished my sentence that it would be a waste of his time. Tsunade was much more polite about it. A studious girl, to be sure, with a truly ridiculous amount of control over her chakra. She had a fair share of appreciation for Konoha's history, but it wasn't difficult to see that her grandfathers and my predecessors had already filled her head with enough of it to last her a lifetime. As far as she was concerned, she'd heard it all. So she refused me, citing the myriad of responsibilities that she had to tend to after our training, and how very sorry she was. He chuckles. Reaching out, the Sandaime grabs his pipe and lights it with a snap of his fingers, a casual display of controlled elemental manipulation that I'm not afraid to admit to being jealous of. He takes a drag, exhaling the smoke in a steady stream toward the ceiling. When all was said and done, Jiraiya was the only one to stay behind. A dead last, a braggart, and a bit of a pervert, he was the only one to see any worth in the knowledge I had to offer. So every day after team training the two of us would sit down in front of the memorial stone, and I'd tell him about Konoha and her past. Some days I'd tell him the story behind a name engraved on the stone, others I'd tell him about the first great shinobi war, and at times I told him about both. I told him about the village's politics, of the politics all the Kage dealt with, even the politics surrounding the daimyo. One day Jiraiya came to me with a question, and then another question, and then another after that. He never feared looking foolish in front of me, and soon our one-sided lectures evolved into spirited debates. Looking back on it now, I don't think I've ever been so pleased with any of my students before. The Sandaime smiles ruefully. A lazy tendril of smoke drifts out of his upturned lips. Despite that, he never did surpass Orochimaru in my eyes. He was a delightful student, to be sure, and a pleasure to trade thoughts with, but I don't think I ever considered him to be a rival to either of his teammates in shinobi terms. Not until they'd all grown up and their true selves had shown through. The old man nods gravely at my surprised look. Indeed. It says something, doesn't it? Tsunade, a revolutionary medic and frighteningly strong kunoichi in her own right, grew hateful and bitter towards Konoha when her brother, and the man she loved, died. The Shodai and Nidaime's waxings were little more than a distant memory in the back of her mind. She came to me in a tearful rage and told me she was leaving and never coming back, and all I could do was sign the papers and watch her walk out of the gates, never to return. She was an amazing student, and an even more amazing woman, and it hurt more than I can put into words to see her go. Orochimaru, the one I saw unending potential in and held a similarly unending pride for, grew cold and monstrous in his pursuit of power. When the time came for me to retire, I couldn't even consider making him Hokage. When I refused him, whatever might have remained of his affections towards Konoha died. He began to steal Konoha's citizens away from their homes and perform inhuman experiments on them, in search of immortality of all things. The Sandaime grimaces. It saddens me to this day to say that I was not surprised when I discovered all that he'd done. He places his pipe down on the table and sighs. And then comes Jiraiya, my faithful dead last. The old man shakes his head. He took my knowledge and he made it his own, took my love for Konoha and did the same. Took the jokes and barbs from his teammates, and made them his strength. He rose high in both rank and esteem, leading many a battle in both the second and the third great shinobi wars. Then he traveled far and wide across the elemental nations and beyond, his thirst for knowledge guiding him. Along the way he made friends, almost as many friends as there are shinobi in this village. And through these friends he formed the most powerful spy network Konoha has ever had the pleasure of knowing. He fought tooth and nail for every last jutsu and political alliance, and never once faltered where his teammates fell, and he proved my fool self wrong. He became one of the greatest shinobi Konoha had ever seen, a spy master and a war leader and a hero. The Sandaime falls silent. I sink back in my stiff chair, attempting to absorb his words. My anxiety is long forgotten as I stare at the Sandaime, and it occurs to me that I shouldn't know this. That I don't deserve this knowledge, so personal and visibly painful to the old man across from me. Why are you telling me this? I manage to ask. Because I want you to realize something, Naruto, he says intently. I want you to realize that it isn't power and knowledge that makes a great shinobi. Orochimaru and Tsunade both had more than enough of that, and it did little for them in the end. It's the desire to improve yourself in all areas, not just those that suit you. The ability to set aside pride in yourself in exchange for personal betterment. Being able to embrace what is right, and not necessarily what is easy. That is what makes a shinobi great. You don't have the strength or the knowledge that the Kage do, or even some of your peers. But you have the desire and the determination to learn. Reaching across his desk, the Sandaime grabs my hand and places the headband in it. And that more than qualifies you to serve as a shinobi of Konoha. For once in my life I can't think of a witty remark. I thanks, old man. I assure you, it's my pleasure. And your scroll, he holds it out. Quickly tying the headband around my forehead, I snatch the scroll up, cradling it protectively under one arm. He grins. I'm very proud of you, Naruto. If you continue on the path you're on now, I have no doubt that when the day comes I'll be passing this hat on to you. Freaking dust in my eyes. I swipe at them quickly, smiling brightly. Thanks. That means a lot. Now I believe you have a team to meet with, the old man declares, rummaging through the papers on his desk before finally pulling one from the pile. You've been selected by Hatake Kakashi, and your teammates will be Uchiha Sasuke and Hirano Sakura. Best not keep them waiting. The door creaks open, courtesy of the Umbu guarding the door. I'll see you soon, Naruto. The walk out of the Hokage Tower is spent in a hazy sort of awareness. I caress the smooth steel of my headband the whole way down the steps, tracing the engraved leaf. The weight of it feels right, like it belongs there on my forehead. Like I've just regained a part of myself I've been missing for a long, long time. So Sasuke was right about the teams after all. Somehow that doesn't dismay me as much as it usually would. I'm too giddy. Too excited to start my career as a shinobi. Now which one was Sakura again? The trip back to the academy is a quick one, and I find my team lounging on the roof after a few minutes of stalking the halls with no success. Sakura, it turns out, is the quiet one with the pink hair that always got full marks on the written exams. She's wearing a battle dress cut off at the knees the color of the leaves that constantly hang over Konoha, and the cloth holding her headband on her forehead is much the same. I give her my most approachable smile and introduce myself, but all she does is wave shortly back. Weird. So you managed to con the sand name out of a headband after all, Sasuke jabs. I wave him off haughtily. As if old man Hokage knows he can't afford to pass me by, I scoff. Sakura tries and fails to stifle a giggle. Ouch. That's it then? Sasuke asks, eyes flicking to the scroll clutched under my arm. I grin. In all its glory. Strolling over to stone bench, I slap the scroll down. I notice that it's been sealed with the official insignia of the Hokage and Konoha, red ink and everything. A little shiver runs down my spine. What do you think he gave me? I trace the insignia, identical to the one on my forehead. I bet you'll find out if you open it, Sasuke suggests. Maybe it's an A-rank futon jutsu. Or maybe it's some long-lost taijutsu style the old man found way back when he wasn't old, I babble excitedly. A sudden thought occurs to me. What if it's an S-rank futon jutsu? Sasuke groans. Fine, I acquiesce. You Uchiho and your impatience, I lament. Gently, ever so gently, I prick the seal off. I'm tempted to close my eyes, but I get the feeling the time for messing around is over. I silently unravel the scroll, Sasuke watching like a hawk over my shoulder, and immediately chance upon the title of the jutsu. No way, I breathe. Yet the jutsu's name stands stark and bold amongst the rest of text, clear as day. Uzumaki style, heavenly chakra chains. Is that dash? Sasuke exclaims in surprise. My eyes move down the scroll. The heavenly chakra chains jutsu is one of many unique to the late Uzumaki clan of Yuzushiogakure, and is reputed as one of the most powerful. It is a jutsu exclusive to the Uzumaki clan because of the quality of their chakra, which is specifically required for the heavenly chakra chains to serve their purpose. In short, to perform the heavenly chakra chains, a shinobi must have an expert grasp over shape manipulation and an above-average store of Uzumaki chakra. The shinobi shapes their chakra into several links of chain, the size of which is for the shinobi to decide, assuming they have enough chakra to compensate. These chains can then be used to disrupt jutsu, act as extended appendages of sorts, or, as they are primarily used for, subdue opponents. Special Uzumaki chakra? That can't mean what I think it means. No, the old man wouldn't have made such a big deal out of my defect if it ran in the family, right? Maybe. I slowly unravel the scroll further, revealing an illustration of a dozen pure white links of chain erupting from a featureless shinobi and entangling around the throats of as many similarly featureless shinobi. A wall of text greets me next, detailing the particulars of shape manipulation and theories behind the Uzumaki chakra and the role it plays in the jutsu. And above it, at the very top, in bright red lettering, S-rank ninjutsu. Sasuke whistles from his place beside me. Yeah, that's definitely one of them. Them, in this case, was the stash of secret clan jutsu that had made the Uzumaki clan so famous in the Second Great Shinobi War. It was what prompted IWA to wipe them out in the first place. The Uzumaki clan and Yuzushiogakure as a whole had been close allies with Konoha up until that point, so the academy touched briefly on them and their vague clan techniques several times over the years. The day we first went over their part in the Second Great Shinobi War was actually the first I'd ever heard of my clan, and sadly enough the lessons that followed never quite managed to sate my almost desperate curiosity. I still don't know what my mother's name is, much to my frustration. Or maybe my father was the Uzumaki. Not like I'll be finding out anytime soon. Even the libraries don't have anything besides the generic wartime info. What are you two looking at? Sakura suddenly asks right beside my left ear. I jerk back in surprise, allowing her to lean forward and study my scroll. Not a moment later she gasps, snapping up to stare at us with wide, excited grass-green eyes. Do you know what this is? She cries, grabbing up the scroll and pointing at the illustration. This is one of the 7 Uzumaki yokai techniques. They restrained Bijou with this in the Second Great War. She waves her free arm frantically at the scroll. It's been lost for decades. 7 Uzumaki, what now? I rack my brain for a moment but come up woefully short on the phrase. Looks like I'm being groomed for Hokage sooner than I thought, I crack instead, mentally filing away that particular piece of information for future research. Where'd you learn that? Sasuke asks Sakura curiously. And just like that, Sakura's bubbly excitement is gone, replaced with a flushed face and eyes firmly fixed on her feet. Oh, I read it in a library somewhere, she mumbles, holding my scroll out meekly. I carefully reach out and grab it, rolling it up and securing it under my arm once more. An awkward silence falls over us. Time for a seamless segue. So hey, where's this Kakashi guy? Damn, I'm good. Sasuke shrugs. Iruka says he doesn't make a habit of showing up on time. Or anywhere in the general vicinity of on time. Well, that sucks. I glance around listlessly. The rooftop is devoid of just about anything interesting, aside from a couple water towers on the far side. Want a spar? I offer. Of course. After a few moments carefully propping my S-rank clan jutsu up against the rails that surround the roof's perimeter, I walk out into the middle of the concrete where Sasuke is already limbering up into his fruity little taijutsu stance. I crane my neck side to side, breathing deeply. Alright, let's keep this one restricted. I'd rather not spend my first week as a shinobi doing repair work because your dumbass set the academy on fire. Sasuke humps. Weapons? I glance uncertainly back at Sakura, who's currently trying and failing to watch us discreetly. Let's say no projectiles this round. Anything else is good. Sasuke scowls. You know I don't use anything but shuriken in the first place, he says accusingly. Regardless. Let's do this. I shout, hands flashing into my weapons pouch and each yanking out a double-ended kunai. Sasuke streaks towards me, searching for the same weak spot he always goes for at the beginning of our spars. I let my iron grip on my chakra loosen and spin around his stiff-fingered jab, bringing my right hand around in a slash, shrieking with the wind. A sharp pain flares up in the back of my head, and there's the ground. A grunt escapes my soon-to-be bloodied lips as I slam face first into the concrete. The unforgiving pressure of a sandaled foot appears on small of my back, preventing me from getting up. Now, an adult shinobi's voice chides above me. That was hardly polite, starting without me, you two. We haven't even introduced ourselves yet. And that must be Kakashi. So much for a first impression. The pressure disappears from my back, allowing me to climb to my feet, rubbing at my aching face. I fix my attacker/sensei with my fiercest glare. Said attacker merely smiles cheerfully back. Or I think he smiles. A face mask covers the bottom half of his face completely, and his headband is sagging over his left eye, leaving only a crinkled right eye bare. Aside from that, a forest green Jounin issue flak jacket not unlike Sakura's battle dress, worn with years of hard use, hangs comfortably on the man's wiry form. The rest of his garb is a solid navy blue, same as his face mask. That was a cheap shot, I grumble, reaching down for my two scattered kunai. Good thing I'm not a samurai, Kakashi replies happily. Now have a seat, you two. Reluctantly, I grab my scroll and sit down on the bench next to Sakura. Sasuke silently takes his place on my other side. Kakashi leans back against the railings, crossing his arms over his chest. So, introductions. How about you start us off, Pinky? Sakura's eyes widen. What should I say, sensei? Nothing too extensive. Just your name and some likes, dislikes, and dreams for the future should do for now, he answers easily. Sakura nods slowly. My name is Harino Sakura, she says quietly. I like reading and researching the yokai core. I dislike bullies and the bijou. She draws herself up, hands bunching in her lap. And one day I dream of joining the yokai core and helping to protect Konoha, she declares determinedly. I shoot her a thumbs up, but she simply faces firmly ahead. Note to self. Figure out what's wrong with Sakura. Interesting, Kakashi drawls. Your turn, Uchiha. Oof. Right off the bat, too. My name is Sasuke, said Uchiha insists, tone steely. My likes are training and tomatoes. My dislikes are people that compare me to others. My goal as a shinobi is to make a name for myself, separate from my family or anything else. Kakashi taps his chin thoughtfully. Also interesting. Now you, shorty. Introduce yourself. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, I begin, brushing off the jab. My likes are ramen and studying the shinobi arts. My dislikes are pessimists and cheaters. My dream is to master my chakra defect and become a great shinobi. Kakashi nods in acceptance. Noted. His eye crinkles into a smile. Well, you three aren't the worst graduates I've ever seen. In fact, I think we're going to have a great time together. His head tilts ever so slightly, his single gray eye regarding us intently. That is, if you pass the test. I glance between Sasuke and Sakura, but they're as bewildered as I am. Sensei? I say hesitantly. We already passed the graduation test. Oh, sure you have, Kakashi agrees. I'm talking about a different test. A much, much more important test. The academy exam was just there to make sure you had the shinobi potential to take the genin test, he explains happily. This is the one that really decides whether or not you keep that headband come tomorrow or trade it in for some fashionable merchant clothes. My brows furrow. I don't like the sound of that at all. What is it? Sakura asks. Kakashi pushes off the railing, beckoning us to follow. Let's find out. And then he's off, hopping up onto the steel beams and over to the nearest rooftop at breakneck speed. Shouting a curse, I jump up from the bench and vault over the railing, propelling myself over the gap between the academy and the nearest apartment complex with a concentrated gust of chakra. Already Kakashi-sensei is little more than a dot on the horizon, and the world blurs as I push to close the gap. Sasuke appears at my side in a flurry of leaves, easily assuming an even pace with me. Leaping over yet another rooftop and hastily avoiding slamming into a startled Chunin, I chance a look behind me and see Sakura's pink hair bobbing a few buildings behind us. Kakashi slips constantly in and out of sight throughout the chase, and soon the bustling activity and stone footing of the marketplace dissolves into the sparsely populated but no less active training ground sector, and its crowded trees and sturdy branches. Sasuke and I navigate the treetops as easily as can be expected while keeping a constantly distant focus. Soon enough that they give way to dead, dry earth and chain link fences rising higher than my apartment building. We come bursting out of the last tree, landing in skidding crouches in front of Kakashi, who happens to be casually leaning against said chain link fence reading a book. Straightening up, I breathe deeply once, twice, 3 times. Exhale. You're an ass, I say flatly. Kakashi presses his book to his chest. Oh, my heart. A sharp rustling sound a second later warrants Sakura's arrival. The girl makes the jump about halfway towards us and lands hard on her feet, stumbling once and then falling to her knees gasping for breath. Why did you bring us here? Sasuke demands. Kakashi blinks innocently. For your test, of course, he says. Scowling, I finally look past him and past the towering fences, towards the apparent location of our real genin test. My mouth drops open. It's a forest. A really, really big forest. My head tilts backward, straining to take it all in. An image flashes behind my eyes of a different view of this forest, from atop the Yandame's head. They'd been eye level up there, the trees, and looked unnaturally large, but down here it was beyond ridiculous. They blot out the very sun itself, shrouding everything below in an artificial dusk. A flash of bright red catches my eye, a sign hanging on the fence high above Kakashi-sensei's head. Training Ground 44, it reads. The Forest of Death. This is where we're taking our genin test? What the hell kind of test is it? Now, the rules are simple, Kakashi explains, heading off along the fence. Sasuke and I exchange a glance before following cautiously behind. All you have to do is make it to that tower right there poking through the tree line before sunset, and you 3 are as good as mine. The masked jounin stops beside an open gate. Whenever you're ready. What's the catch? Sasuke asks bluntly, peering forward into the ominous forest. Nothing much, Kakashi says, slapping Sasuke on the back and sending him staggering through the gate. All that's in there are a few bugs and the odd tiger. He reaches out and ruffles Sakura's hair. As long as you keep your head you'll be fine, he assures her. I slink in through the fence behind Sakura, and the gate slams loudly shut behind me, dozens of seals lighting up briefly across its surface and fading away just as quickly. A roar echoes somewhere off to the right, deep in the forest. Kakashi gives us a thumbs up from his spot behind the fence just before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. Good luck. I stare blankly at the falling leaves for a little while, just trying to process it all. I fail. What the hell just happened? Sakura shrugs helplessly and Sasuke ignores me entirely, a pensive expression settling on his features. No, seriously, I insist. What the hell was that? I've heard about this test before, Sasuke admits, frowning. From some of my cousins a few years ago. I don't think it's ever been held here before, though he shakes his head in frustration. Let's just get to the tower. We can sort things out when we've passed. Can he even do that? I press as we set off at an easy run into the forest. Just drop us off here without telling us what our objective is. That's his job, isn't it? What do you mean, Naruto? Sakura asks confusedly. I roll my eyes. He's obviously not telling us something. You really think all we have to do is get past a couple tigers and reach that tower to become shinobi? What would be the point of that? I ask harshly. Sakura flinches, mumbling an apology. Ah, great. Snap at the shy girl for asking a question, Naruto. What could possibly go wrong? I open my mouth to apologize, only to be stopped short by a familiar roar, this one closer than before. I jerk to a stop, reaching into my weapons pouch and pulling out my double-ended kunai. The titanic treetops rustle above us and a flash of white catches the corner of my eye. A muffled boom reaches my ears and I spin, coming face to face with the biggest tiger I've ever seen. As big as Old Man Tuchi's ramen stand, bigger even. Its fur is a dirty white striped with purple, and its eyes are a violent shade of yellow, same as its bared teeth. Its nostrils flare, and it lets loose a rumbling growl that sets the hairs on the back of my neck on edge. 3 more booms rend the air, and I take my eyes off the tiger in front of me just long enough to see 3 more of equally monstrous stature prowling forward, entrapping us. Blood stains the fur of one and drips from the teeth of the other 2. Sasuke, I say lowly. I'll take the 2 to your left, you take the on directly behind me. Sakura, a cloud of smoke drifts past my vision, revealing a broken branch on the ground in place of my pink-haired teammate. Awesome, I snarl, just as the tiger in front of me roars and pounces. My chakra explodes free, shrieking, and I spin around the tiger's swiping claw and sink my kunai into its shoulder. It yowls, tail whipping around and smacking me in the back of the head hard enough to send stars spiraling into my vision. I hurriedly drag my kunai out, praying for a severed tendon, and throw out my other hand, blasting the beast's head backwards with a surge of wind and sending it staggering back. Fire release, great fireball. Heat dances behind me, an uncomfortable warmth at my back. One of the tigers roars in pain. The tiger on Sakura's side comes bearing down on me, teeth flashing toward my neck. I spin away, sweeping both arms forward and pushing my chakra with all my might. It shoves savagely behind the tiger, sending it tumbling headfirst into a tree. Sasuke appears at my side, hands flashing through the seals to another Katan Jutsu, and I turn to deal with the pissed-off tiger behind him. Wait. Tiger? A snapping above me reveals the 4th tiger, navigating the treetops as easily as one of Old Man Hokage's monkey summons. I follow it incredulously as it travels farther and farther out among the branches until it's almost directly above me and Sasuke. The tiger on the ground growls, stalking forward, and its tail lashes out at my face. I duck under the blow and bring my left arm up sharply, severing a solid foot of the monstrous appendage. Spinning out of the way of yet another furious pounce, I see Sasuke being backed up by his 2 tigers, and see the tiger in the treetops poised directly above him. My eyes widen. Sasuke! I shout, and immediately he disappears in a shunshin. The 4th tiger yowls furiously, landing on the other 2 with a crash. Instinct screams at me to move and I dive out to the side, the final tiger's massive bulk thundering past. Rolling to my feet, I let my kunai drop and flash forward. My chakra howls around me and I slam a fist into the beast's side, sending it skidding into the thrashing pile of its brethren. A fireball from above engulfs them all, courtesy of Sasuke from his place above me. I'm bracing myself for another pass when 4 translucent walls of shimmering blue spring to life around the enraged tigers. One of them rushes forward and bounces off the wall in front of me ineffectually, snarling. A hissing sound fills the air. Chakra comes to life in the form of dozens of little squares lighting up within the barrier. Flames brighter and infinitely more dangerous than the Katan Jutsu Sasuke was slinging around fill the great big chakra box. I stare in silence as the barrier falls and the smoke settles, along with the pink mist that used to be 4 giant tigers. Sakura inches out from behind a tree to my left, slipping a sealing brush into her weapons pouch. She smiles nervously at me. I'm not sure what to say, so I blurt out the first thing that comes to mind. Nice. Sasuke lands heavily beside me. Straightening up, he regards Sakura curiously. Where'd you learn that? Sakura's smile morphs into something just the slightest bit mischievous. I read it in a library. I chuckle, turning to look for my kunai. So was that it, you think? I call, making for a particularly scorched tree. Sasuke shrugs. Probably. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Bark solid as stone and jagged as a rusty katana tugs at my clothes and leaves angry red scrapes on my hands as I scale one of the massive trees the forest of death is filled to the brim with. My breath heaves in and out of my chest and blood pounds through my veins. A curious light-headed feeling settled over me about an hour ago and has yet to clear up. There's something scurrying up the bark below me. Oh god, oh god, oh god. A thick branch reaches out from a nearby tree and I waste no time latching onto it, swinging up and into a crouch. The creature freezes in its tracks, shivers, and hisses. And then it leaps from the trunk, right at my face. I shriek, leaping backwards and off the branch into a freefall. Desperately, I make a yanking motion with my right hand and my chakra slams into me like a brick wall, sending me back first into the tree. My head impacts it with an echoing crack, and for a terrifying moment white noise is all I know. After an eternity my senses return to me and I find myself hugging the trunk with all my might, forehead pressed roughly up against it. Leaves rustle above me. Another hiss. Oh God. Spying a branch about 10 feet below me, I shimmy down the trunk and set to getting back to ground level, one branch at a time. The creature is never far behind, spurring me on faster and more recklessly than is probably recommended while navigating trees the size of mountains. I couldn't really care less at this point, though. I nearly cry when I spot the ground and my teammates. I'm so relieved. Dropping down from the final branch, I perform a beautiful diving roll behind Sakura, peeking over her shoulder fearfully. Sasuke sighs, though whether it's from annoyance or fatigue I can't tell, and flits quickly through the hand seals for the great fireball. He unleashes it just as the hell beast hits the ground, and the horse-sized creature goes up with a heavenly whoosh. Its screeches are music to my ears. I stay safely behind my pink-haired human shield until it stopped making noise entirely, and its various limbs are twitching in the air. Then I rush over and kick it as hard as I can, over and over and over. I hate spiders, I growl. Said spider's body suddenly gives under my mighty kicks with a sharp crack, and a nasty yellow goo spills out of the hole. I take a hasty step back, gagging. Sasuke snorts. You done, princess? Or do you have some more bugs you'd like me to swat for you? I whirl around, jabbing my index finger at him. You can blow me, Uchiha. Spiders are evil in its purest form and I'll have no part. Guys? Sakura breaks in hesitantly. That's the tower over there, isn't it? She points at said tower, obscured by some leaves but very, very close. Never have I seen a more beautiful sight as that great red tower. Not a minute later I slam the tower doors open, stumbling inside and just about collapsing into the arms of one very surprised Irika-sensei. Sasuke and Sakura follow in at a perhaps saner pace. It was so awful, Irika-sensei, I babble. There were tigers as big as Ichirakas and snakes longer than your lectures on genjutsu. So you three made it, Irika-sensei observes, amused. Just in time, too. Hokage-sama will be here at any moment with the Jounin-sensei for the final evaluations. A pack of wolves tried to tear off my junk and a bear ate all my shuriken. The rest of your classmates that got through the test will be on the top floor, and there's some food and medic need on the third floor if you can't wait, Irika-sensei explains. You'll want to hurry though. And a demon spider chased me up a tree. Irika-sensei rolls his eyes in exasperation, setting me firmly on my feet. Go on with your teammates, Naruto, before you get disqualified for messing around down here. You can tell me all about it later, he urges. I sullenly comply, falling into step beside Sakura. I gaze forlornly at the third floor and the line of tables adorned with meats of all shapes and sizes as we pass, but somehow manage to power through to the top floor. We emerge into a bare room about 5 times the size of Irika-sensei's classroom, speckled with various groups of 3 of my classmates from the academy. The floor is smooth, faded greenstone and the walls a uniform gray. A few teams are sitting on a platform on the far side of the room with concrete steps. A quick sweep of the room shows that none of them look as disheveled as Sakura, Sasuke, and I, to my annoyance. Hey, Naruto! Oh, perfect. Kiba waves enthusiastically from his spot across the room, breaking away from his huddle with a small girl in a beige coat and a tall boy in a fully body trench coat. Hinata and Shino, I vaguely recall. They follow dutifully behind the boisterous Inuzuka as he threads his way through the teams towards us. You guys finally showed up, eh? Kiba asks, grinning tauntingly. Didn't think you would manage to shake that bear. Good on you. My eye twitches. Thanks, Sakura says softly, inadvertently heading off the verbal kunai I was about to take to Kiba's face. No problem. So which task did they saddle you guys with? Kiba asks, a bit more seriously. Something clenches in my gut. I knew there was something I was missing. I knew. We were only told to make it to the tower before sunset, Sasuke answers. Kiba winces. Courier team, huh? That sucks, I'd never have guessed they'd put you two there. We got tracking. He holds up a scroll colored red around the edges with the kanji for track emblazoned on it. I'm confused, I announce. Sakura nods in agreement. We weren't told that there were specific team categories, Sasuke says. Kiba frowns. You mean your sensei didn't tell you? Our sensei threw us in here and wished us good luck and that's about it, I reply sourly. Kiba gapes. Seriously? Seriously, Sasuke confirms dryly. Kiba makes to ask another question, but suddenly falls silent, staring at something behind us. It's old man Hokage and a bunch of older-looking shinobi with jounin vests that I don't recognize, and there's Kakashi in the very back, slouching along with his tiny orange book. I step aside, allowing him to pass, followed by all but two jounin, Kakashi and an absolutely gorgeous woman dressed in bandages of all things with black hair and crimson eyes. Kakashi sidles up beside us, keeping his nose buried in his book, and the black-haired woman walks over to Kiba and his team, murmuring lowly to them. The rest of the jounin break off in a similar manner, each seeking out their respective teams until it's just the old man stepping up onto the platform on the far side of the room. He clears his throat, instantly silencing the quiet mutterings that had been drifting through the room. Clasping his hands together, he surveys the room with serious eyes. Hokage eyes. You are all here today because you've decided that you wish to spend your lives as one of Konoha's shinobi, protecting her and her interests alike. You are all here today because you've worked hard day in and day out to reach the level of skill necessary to become a shinobi of Konoha, and you're here because you had the force of will to make it through our infamous training ground 44 in pursuit of your goals. Not all of you here will become shinobi today, I am afraid. That does not mean this has all been for nothing, though. Not at all. Return to the academy, study and practice hard, and I have no doubt I'll be adding your names to our roster come next year. He smiles. For those of you that do ascend to the rank of shinobi, I'd like to give you my sincerest congratulations and hopes that your career is a safe and prosperous one. If ever you find yourselves in need of assistance that isn't being provided by your jounin sensei or your teammates, know that your fellow shinobi are always willing to help. And myself too, if I can find the time. He nods sharply. Your jounin sensei will take things from here, I believe. Best of luck to you all. And just like that he steps down from the platform and walks calmly back to the exit, sparing me a nod on his way out the door, and he's gone. Noise kicks up once again, shouts of triumph and wails of dismay filling the room. I turn to find Kakashi heading for the stairs himself and hurry after him. You're the worst, I accuse, scowling fiercely. My apparent sensei peeks over his book. Whatever do you mean? You didn't tell us anything about the test, Sasuke explains with a scowl of his own, on the other side of our apparent sensei. You didn't even tell us what type of team we were. I told you all you needed to know, Kakashi disagrees. And you're obviously heavy assault. Obviously? I ask incredulously. Obviously, Kakashi confirms. Why else would I bug you with pheromones to attract predators if not for heavy assault? And just like that, my fragile grip on my temper shatters under the crushing weight of my rage. You what? I roar, leaping in front of him, shoving my index finger in his chest. Do you know how close I came to not being able to father children because of your stupid pheromones? How many of my perfectly good shuriken got eaten? How did you even hat? When we were at the gate, Sasuke says, eyes widening in realization. You slapped me on the back and ruffled Sakura's hair. What about me? I demand. I'm the one they went after every single time, and he never even touched. The words freeze in my throat. The roof, I breathe. Kakashi's eye quirks up in a smile. I hit you with an extra large dose for starting fights without your sensei's consent. My hands spasm in a choking motion, and for a brief instant I see red. So, sensei, Sakura hurriedly speaks up. Did we pass? Oh, with flying colors. Kakashi says enthusiastically, and the earth-shattering fury subsides in me, just a bit. You three are all mine now. Somehow, that no longer sounds as happy a prospect as it did a few hours ago. When's our first training session? Sasuke asks. 9 o'clock sharp tomorrow morning at Training Ground 7, Kakashi supplies. I'd suggest getting a good night's sleep tonight. You'll be needing it. With that he brushes past me the rest of the way down the steps. Oh, and one more thing, he calls, stopping just inside the entrance. Reaching into his pocket, he pulls out a small purple pellet the size of my thumbnail and flicks it at me. My hand reaches out and snatches it from the air, and I stare at it, puzzled. Then it explodes in my face. Rancid purple smoke envelopes me and Sasuke and Sakura, and I quickly jump down the rest of the stairs out of the cloud, coughing and waving a hand violently in front of my face. What the hell was that? I choke out. Kakashi grins. The rest of the pheromones. See you tomorrow. And with that he disappears in a swirl of leaves. Son of a. The training ground is quiet. The blanket noise of Konoha activity is far away and the air is still. The area is, unsurprisingly, devoid of any and all wildlife, and the nearly ever-present sounds of steel on steel or fist on flesh are also absent. Not a good sign. I do my best to keep my breathing even and slow, but nonetheless my every exhale seems thunderous. Carefully, I creep from my perch in a high branch among the forested area of the training ground, down the trunk and to the ground. In my right hand I clutch a kunai, in my left the wind. My chakra fluctuates to and fro, weaving between my loosely held fingers. It's a comforting presence, if nothing else. I peer through a shroud of drooping branches into the training ground's dirt clearing, and the 3 metal boxes lying innocuously in the middle. My mouth waters. I ease back, circling around just within the boundaries of the miniature forest until I'm on the opposite side of the plainly decorated bento boxes. I slip silently past a reaching bush, huddling behind another tree. I'm only going to get a split second to do this. I have to make it count. There you are. I bite down on a gasp and adrenaline surges in my veins. I lunge to the side, kunai and wind immediately forgotten, aiming for the protective confines of a large clump of bushes. An iron grip closes around the back of my collar and yanks. I'm dragged flailing and gagging like a baited fish out of the protection of the growth, and dropped at the sandaled feet of my sensei. He crosses his arms, looking at me with stark disapproval. And just what do you think you were doing? A heavy assault team does not skirt around the conflict to grab the objective, especially when their teammates are already engaged in said conflict. I lasted longer than them, though, didn't I? I managed to say between coughs. I flinch away from the predicted smack upside the head, but it comes from the right this time. My abused ear screams in pain. Yet you still failed. Like a coward this time. I'll take this over getting beaten to hell while Sakura and Sasuke kawarimi themselves to safety, thanks, I say sourly. Kakashi cocks his head. Who said I'm not going to beat you to hell anyway? I glare sullenly up at him and the stupid trio of bells dangling mockingly from his waist, rubbing at my ear. He sighs. Did you ever consider asking them to stay with you when I started using taijutsu? He asks mildly. My hand reaches up of its own accord to scratch the back of my head. I guess not, I admit reluctantly. Shocking. Yeah, well, can I at least get some consolation food for being the last man standing? I beg. Yes, I beg. I'm already on my knees, so I might as well go all in at this point. I'm hungry, damn it. Kakashi blinks in surprise. But Naruto, I'm the last man standing, he points out in mock confusion. You're the worst, I groan, pushing myself to my feet. Kakashi smiles. So you say. Now run along. I prefer to eat my lunch in peace. I stalk away, bringing my impotent fury and rumbling stomach with me. I arrive at the small pond training ground 7 features in time to see Sasuke latch onto a branch near the top of one of the taller trees after a short vertical sprint up its trunk. Out on the pond, Sakura walks slowly atop the waters, an intense expression of concentration on her face. Even in my anger I can admit she looks pretty cute. Finally decided to show up? Sasuke calls down scornfully at me. I give him a one-fingered salute. Got tired of getting my ass kicked in close combat while you guys practiced your kawarimi? I holler back. Sasuke snorts and drops down, retreating a few feet away from the tree and sprinting for it again. Spotting a nice little patch of grass in the shade, I take a seat and pull a scroll free from my weapon's pouch. The label reads Advanced Shape Manipulation for Novices. I find the spot I left off at easily enough, considering I've been reading the same page for the last 5 days. The theory behind shape manipulation is pretty simple. About as simple as the nature transformation 4. It's basically just honing your control over your chakra through a bunch of little tricks until you have enough skill to hold it in whatever shape it is you want it to take. The only issue is that while shape manipulation and elemental transformation are rather simple by themselves, elemental shape manipulation is hard. The Yondaime couldn't even do it. He spent years trying to incorporate elemental transformation into his Rasengan, to no avail. The Yondaime. It involves a split in concentration that's almost impossible to maintain in the heat of battle. It's something that only the most skilled shinobi can pull off. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about the nature transformation because of my trusty old chakra defect, so split concentration won't be an issue. Unfortunately, it also renders information on vanilla shape manipulation virtually useless to me. And as if that weren't enough, combined shape manipulation and nature transformation is so rare that there isn't a scroll on it in the Academy library. So now, while my teammates defy gravity and balance kunai on their noses, I get to sit here and stare at theoretical nonsense and reverse engineer an advanced method of chakra control, because that's the only thing I can do with my chakra right now. God, but I love being a shinobi. I shake my head, driving the pessimistic thoughts from my head, and pull a long clear balloon from my pocket. Time for yet another fruitless bout of chakra training. I blow the balloon up to about as large as my head and deftly tie it off. I've gotten previous ones to the size of my torso before, but I'll be needing room in there for this particular exercise. Holding it gently between my palms, I carefully channel my chakra into it. Bulges appear on the surface of the balloon as it slowly but steadily scrolls, suggests starting with simple shapes for this exercise, and then moving on to more complicated manipulations like weapons or animals later. I'm aiming for a cube this time. I keep the image of it firmly in my mind while I wrestle my flighty chakra into a solid shape. The balloon continues to swell. I grit my teeth and focus on reining my chakra back into a tight formation. The balloon promptly explodes in my face. I try 24 more times before I snatch the bag of balloons out of my pocket and chuck them into the pond with a wordless roar of frustration. "Sasuke!" I shout. "Branch!" After a brief pause, a bare branch about a foot long comes hurtling towards my face like some sort of primitive shuriken. I pluck it out of the air and set to working on a different exercise. I haven't tried this one yet, now that I think about it. Probably because it's even more basic than the balloon one. All I have to do is mold my chakra to the shape of the stick and hold it like that. According to the scroll, I'll know I've got it when the whole thing is glowing a faint blue. My chakra swirls around the stick, little more than an occasional distortion of light. Oh, right. Wind. The stick sinks into the far side of the pond with a muted plop. I run through the rest of what the thin scroll has to offer with similar success, and by the time the scroll joins the rest of the misfit chakra control mediums in the pond, academy-related consequences be damned, the sun is already past its zenith. Staggering to my feet, I spy Sakura resting with a bottle of water and a scroll unraveled across her knees on the other side of the pond. A faint rustling sound above me, accompanied by the steady thump-thump-thump of sandaled feet on bark, alerts me to Sasuke's presence just as he drops down in front of me. He smirks. "Ready to start training now?" And there goes the final straw. "Taijutsu brawl, full restrictions," I growl. "To the death." Sasuke's eyes widen and he performs a hasty backflip away as my chakra comes howling to the forefront. Crouching, I launch myself up into the air and latch onto a low-hanging branch, swinging up and disappearing amidst the leaves. Below, Sasuke relaxes into his taijutsu stance, head swiveling to and fro. Bursting from the treetop, I throw my arm back for a haymaker. A feinted haymaker. Sasuke leaps out of the way, of course, and I hit the ground in a roll. Bracing my feet against the ground, I pivot and surge forward out of my roll, catching him off guard in his attempted pursuit. I slam my chakra forward and lay into his hasty cross guard with a clenched fist, sending him staggering. I move forward, but jerk back at the last second as the Uchiha rolls into a backwards somersault and performs a pivot of his own. I duck the stiff-fingered jab he sends at my throat, allowing my headband to absorb the blow and drop, sweeping his legs out from under him. His other arm shoots out and plants itself firmly on the ground. Hi's torso twists, and his leg comes spinning around and nails me full on in the face, sending me tumbling. Pushing myself to my feet, I hawk and spit a glob of blood on the dirt. Ow. Sasuke appears in my face, fingers flashing for my solar plexus. Quickly grabbing for my chakra, I spin around the precise and no doubt mind-numbingly painful attack, laying into him with the open palm strike at his nose. He blocks it with one arm and clamps my wrist with the other, spinning and twisting, and heaves me over his shoulder. I glimpse a tree approaching at perilous speeds and pull savagely at my chakra. A veritable wall of wind envelopes me, slowing me just enough to catch myself on the trunk in a vertical crouch. Another push, and I'm rocketing back towards my woefully off-guard sparring victim. He throws up another hurried cross block in front of his face, but it's far too late for that. A feral grin twists my features. Lariat! My right arm swings for his throat. And the stupid asshole trips. He falls backward onto his shoulders, curls up, and arches upward, and oh god, my ribs. My vision flickers black as his feet catch me in the chest, sending me flying. The weight of 1,000 bijou presses down on my ribs, and it takes all of my willpower to clench my teeth around pain sound and curl myself into a ball. I hit the ground hard, of course, completely avoiding the nice soft water sitting kindly a few feet behind me. I bounce a few times for good measure, coming to an abrupt stop on something smooth and squishy. Someone squeaks above me. I crack an eye open and Sakura's surprised and concerned visage appears above me. Man, but is her lap comfy. You're in, I gasp. Taijutsu only, full restrictions. I roll off of her, wincing. What dash? She's cut off quite handily by Sasuke leaping clear across the pond, no doubt hitting her with the full brunt of that constipated battle scowl of his. Sakura immediately bolts for the pond, leaving me to regain my senses one painful breath at a time. My hand rubs tenderly at my chest. I can't believe he just did that. I managed to sit up, hissing forcefully through my teeth. What kind of shinobi trips on dirt? I make it back up after another minute or so of dramatic groaning, and find Sakura and Sasuke facing off atop the water. Well, Sakura is in a solid taijutsu stance, at least Sasuke is sort of stumbling around like my old caretaker after her date nights. Spotting an opportunity for painful mischief, I quickly turn and scurry up a looming tree. My teammates meet in a brief bout of taijutsu that is quite frankly painful to watch. Sasuke can't keep a solid footing to save his life, and Sakura isn't good enough at taijutsu to capitalize on it. I'll have to fix that. I shimmy up and over and across until I'm perched above them. They break apart for a breath, and I strike. Free for all! I bellow gleefully, rocketing from the tangle of treetops above. Sasuke curses loudly, twisting and diving for the water. Not this time, you slippery bastard! My arms wrap around his chest as I crash bodily into him, and I shove my face into his side just in time to avoid the frantic jab at my eyes. The pond swallows us up in the next instant, while he squirms and thrashes and I squeeze tighter and tighter on his chest. After about a minute of struggling, he goes limp. I roll my eyes, leaning back and planting both feet against his head. Quick as lightning, he breaks free of my now awkward grip and makes for the surface. There's an Uchiha for you. I kick my way up after him, surfacing to see him attempting to climb back onto the water while Sakura edges back from the two of us, her eyes on something behind me. I splash around. Kakashi peers down at me curiously. I don't think I've ever seen chakra control training done like that before, he muses slowly. Oh goody. What can I say? I think outside the box, I reply. Kakashi nods pleasantly. Good for you. Now get out of the water, you have 30 seconds until our next combat session. Sigh. My shirt comes off with a wet tearing sound, dripping water and pink, diluted blood. I flop ungracefully to the ground, crossing my legs and set to work wringing out my soaked garment. I shake my sopping hair, grunting in annoyance. I snap my shirt out, eyeing it critically. Yeah, it's not going to get much drier than that. I slip it back on, taking care not to put pressure on the large purple bruise on my right side or the shallow cut just above my belly button. Snapping my weapons pouch off my thigh, I empty it of its contents and wring it out as well. My gaze flickers to the right as I reach for a kunai to dry off. My female teammate is sitting stiffly up against a training dummy log, pawing ineffectually at her own clothing. She hisses in pain, snatching her hand back from the sleeve of her battle dress. Changing her mind, she peels the middle slit of the dark green material back, revealing smooth, wet, pale flesh. Bruised flesh. I wince at the sight of the ugly splotches of color traveling up her legs to the cutoff of her skin-tight black shorts. I deposit my kunai into the weapons pouch, reaching out for another while keeping a discreet eye on Sakura. She gingerly massages her thighs, and an honest-to-God whimper drifts past her lips. A whimper. I can feel my bleeding heart soaking through my shirt already. Well, I don't know about you three, but I had a blast that time, Kakashi says happily from his leaning position against another dummy. In his left hand is Sasuke's sandal, and dangling from his right is a double-ended kunai still dripping with my blood. You almost made me try. Gee, thanks, I mutter, grabbing a damp shuriken from the pile. Nobody likes a sore loser, Naruto, he chides. Then he's screwed twice over, Sasuke snarks from his tree perch. I scowl up at him, but decide it isn't worth the effort and turn back to my work. So are we going to pick up a mission today? I ask, more out of desperate habit than anything as I swipe my final shuriken off on my stained orange pants. The answer was no the first day of training, it was no the second day, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. And now for the sixth. I don't see why not, Kakashi agrees. My head snaps up, eyes wide. Sasuke collapses to the ground a few feet beside me with a muffled grunt, startled right off his branch. Seriously? I press. Kakashi nods. Of course. You three have learned the lesson you needed to learn, even if I did have to give you the answer. You're ready. Wait, I say, waving my hands. Let me get this straight. You're telling me we haven't done any missions yet because we weren't working together? We didn't even have to get the stupid bells. Kakashi raises a singular eyebrow. Did you really think I expected a team of genin fresh out of the academy to take anything more than a beating from a veteran jounin? The worst. Does this mean we can start eating lunch again? Sakura pipes up, timidly hopeful. Nope, Kakashi denies cheerfully. Still need a bell for that. Sakura moans in dismay, clutching at her stomach. What kind of mission will we be going on? Sasuke questions, climbing to his feet and stretching his nicked and bleeding arms above his head. Kakashi shrugs. Depends on what Hokage-sama gives us. He flicks his wrist and throws Sasuke's dark blue sandal back to him, spinning my kunai in his hand thoughtfully for a moment before tossing it underhand to me. We won't be getting any missions if we don't hurry, though. The desk will be closing down soon. That late already? My eyes turn skyward, and sure enough the sun is dipping behind the night-aimed stone head, casting the distant village in shadow. Time to go, then. Clipping my weapons pouch back to my thigh, I rise laboriously to follow Kakashi and Sasuke, who are already heading for the edge of the trees at an easy pace. I absently dislodge one of Sasuke's kunai from a training dummy and deposit it with the rest. Finders keepers, prick. A quiet moan behind me stops me just as I'm about to leave the training ground. Idiot, I growl, rushing back to my female teammate. She has one leg curled underneath her and both arms pressing against the ground, struggling to stand. Here, I've got you, I say quickly, wrapping my arms gently around her shoulders and lifting her up. She tenses, but stays steady when I let her go. I'm sorry, she blurts. I've never been this sore right after a spar before. You've also never had the pleasure of getting your ass beaten black and blue by our wonderful sensei before, I reassure her dryly. She takes a few stiff steps, gradually relaxing into a steady walk. I fall into step beside her, taking turns studying my teammate and admiring the general orange hue of sunset-bathed Konoha. Hey, I meant to apologize, I speak up, when the silence becomes too much. For sneaking off this morning. It was pretty screwed up of me. It's fine, she hastens to assure me. It's mostly my fault, anyway. I didn't realize until you made that comment to Sasuke how your defect would affect you in combat. I just thought, well, I didn't think really. She finishes meekly. A frown steals onto my face. Sasuke would have sooner slapped an Uchiha emblem on the back of his shirt than allowed me that much ground. What's up with this girl? That's hardly fair, I protest, to her surprise. Not knowing the intricacies of my defect a week after we became teammates isn't a hard mistake to make. Of the three of us, Sasuke is obviously the one to blame, I declare. I've been kicking that guy's ass for years. He knows my fighting style inside and out. I wouldn't be surprised if he decided to hang back just to spite me. Sakura smiles at that, the ever-present fro lifting from her brow. Booyah, Uzumaki. Besides, you stuck by me today. Better late than never, eh? I venture. Sakura bobs her head in agreement. Thanks, Naruto, she says softly. No problem. Sasuke and Kakashi don't appear when we exit the cluster of training grounds onto a busy market road, so we make the walk to the Hokage Tower by ourselves. Around us merchants clamber to get rid of the rest of their daily stock before packing up their stalls, and civilians and shinobi alike swarm around them for an early dinner. One stall in particular catches my eye, nestled between two squid and produce vendors, and I quickly grab Sakura's hand and tug her through the seething waves of Konoha citizens. The woman behind the stall is old and rather small, her snow-white hair tied into a neat bun, wearing a worn kimono smattered with vivid cherry blossoms and a placid expression. Her skin is almost as pale as her hair, and laugh lines and crow's feet alike mark her advanced age. We exchange some small talk while I peruse the myriad of tiny jars, and after a minute I decide on a maroon one. Counting out a few bills, I promptly grab Sakura's hand and yank her away once more, this time into a small alley. And Naruto? Sakura stutters. I offer her the jar. Here, rub this on your legs. It's a muscle relaxer, I say. What about you? Waste of salve, I respond. I heal fast. The bruises Kakashi gave me won't last the night. She hesitates, glancing over her shoulder, but takes the jar. She pops the top and sniffs it. Then she dips her fingertips in and shifts a slit in her dress aside, rubbing it into a particularly bruised spot on her thigh. I force my gaze away, admiring the grimy gray bricks and overflowing trash cans on display in the alley. Ah, Sakura gasps. I grin. Good stuff, right? I peek over and see her nod, bending down further to rub at her calf. It's so warm, she says blissfully. Yeah. That stall has saved me more than once heading into classes at the academy covered in really bad bruises, burns, lacerations. I pause in my counting of the ways in which Sasuke has harmed my person at Sakura's horrified look. Nothing too bad, of course. Just some uncomfortable stuff. Point is, that old lady makes great salves, I finish lamely. Finishing up on her legs, Sakura dips into the jar again and smears it on both her arms, covering the dark splotches. Her fingers go to the zipper on her dark green dress and hovers there. She bites her lip. Oh. I spin around, feeling my cheeks heat up, and leave her to it. My thoughts eventually drift off to the scroll back at my apartment, locked up in a strongbox under the wiggly tile in the bathroom. The S-rank Uzumaki clan Jutsu. The heat drains from my face and my hands clench into fists. I'm missing something, I know it. There has to be a scroll I've missed in the library. The old man wouldn't screw me like that. A slender finger taps on my shoulder, belonging to a certain blushing teammate of mine. She tries to hand me the jar back, but I wave her off, grabbing her hand for a third, fourth time and diving into the fray of the market district. I'm only doing it to make sure we don't get split up. Honest. I let go when we finally make it through the worst of the throng and veer sharply towards the Hokage Tower, rising high above the buildings surrounding it, blotting out the setting sun. My mind settles back on the scroll in my apartment, and I'm pondering the connection between my defect and the special Uzumaki chakra when a thought occurs to me. That's right. I cry, snapping my fingers. I wanted to ask you about that stuff you said on the roof, I say, turning inquisitive eyes on Sakura. She blinks, startled. You mean about the Uzumaki? I nod. I've never heard about the 7 yokai techniques before, I explain. You wouldn't happen to remember the name of the scroll you learned that from, would you? Ah, no. I read it a while ago. She looks down. Sorry. No biggie, I assure her, carefully masking my disappointment. Looks like I'll just have to wait until the jackass that has it now returns it. We finally arrive at the high-arching entrance of the Hokage Tower and proceed in, traversing the steps in silence. The secretary waves us through when we make it to the Hokage's floor, and the Umbu at the door steps dutifully aside. I shove the heavy wooden doors open, and the chaos within is revealed. The soundproof doors did their job well, it seems. The thunderous shouting takes me completely off guard, even more so when I realize it's coming from just 2 people. One a tall, muscular man with an awful-looking bowl cut, an admittedly awesome green leotard and orange leg band combo, and a pair of absolutely monstrous eyebrows bellowing indignantly at Kakashi, who's leaning against a wall serene as ever. The second, equally loud source, is what looks to be an identical copy of the Jounin, sans veste, wrestling around on the floor with Sasuke. Wait. No, Uchiha-san. The bizarre genin cries spiritedly, squirming out of Sasuke's grip. You must secure my arms. Like this, and then he flips my teammate over and slams his face into the plush carpeting, twisting his arms behind his back. You see, now you'll only hurt yourself if you try to escape. Is he giving Sasuke advice? I turn incredulous eyes on the only other 2 people in the room I don't know, who I assume to be the rest of this demented little genin team. The one closest to me stares right back at me with cool, pupilless eyes of the Hyuga clan. He's wearing a pair of dark blue shorts and a high-collared beige shirt. His hair hangs in a long, womanly ponytail, in typical Hyuga fashion. The other is a girl, standing a few inches taller than me, with her head in her hands. Her light brown hair is pulled up into twin buns, and her ensemble consists of a pair of long dark green pants and a light pink top. What is he doing? I ask. The girl lifts her head and flashes me an embarrassed smile. It's nothing, he's just. Arch your back, Uchiha-san. Don't let me lock my legs. Oh, for the love of I sigh, striding forward. I reach down and catch the back of Sasuke's shirt as he comes rolling on top and yank him up and off the boisterous genin, who thankfully lets him go. What have I told you about getting into fights with strangers? I ask him sternly when he turns on me, snarling. I strike quick as lightning, smacking him upside the head. Don't do it if you can't win. My words are sharp and mocking, but my palm speaks my true intention, and he calms after a few short puffs of air. That weird genin doesn't seem like he meant any harm, but I can see the fury burning in Sasuke's eyes. The sting can only be lessened so much by good intentions when you're getting coached by the guy happily kicking your ass. I throw a short glare Kakashi's way, which he smoothly ignores. Well, now that we're all here, I believe introductions are in order, the old man calls happily from his desk. The large green shinobi breaks off from his tirade, bowing low. Hokage-sama, apologies on behalf of my team and myself. That was a most unprofessional display. It's quite alright, guy, the old man says graciously. As I was saying, Team 7, this is Team 9. They graduated from the academy a year ago, and are a heavy assault team just like yourselves. They'll be accompanying you on your first mission. Excuse me? I ask. Old man Hokage raises a single gray brow. Your sensei didn't tell you. There is a procedure that all rookie and veteran genin teams must follow for their first few missions. I like to call it the Shinobi Sibling Program. Its purpose is to provide the rookie genin with a safety net of sorts while they take their first steps into the shinobi world. It also serves the bonus purpose of allowing the veteran genin to assume some beginning leadership roles in preparation for their ascension to Chunin. Why can't we take an easier mission instead? Sasuke asks, glaring coldly at the leotard-wearing genin and the Hyuga as well, for whatever reason. I'm afraid there's no such thing as an easy mission, Sasuke, he says. If you're caught and detained in an infiltration and reconnaissance mission, the fact that you're looking for a list of simple smuggled items instead of the plans to a coup d'etat will not save you. If you find yourself caught in the crossfire of a demolition mission, the relatively small scale of the building coming down on your head won't matter. And if your sensei were to misstep in a strike against a group of bandits, they would treat you no kinder than a high-ranking shinobi. He smiles thinly. They'd likely treat you worse. Sasuke nods sullenly, subsiding. It is only until we can be certain of your abilities, old man Hokage says sympathetically. It will be over before you know it. And who knows? Perhaps you and Lee will look back on this in a few days and laugh about it. Indeed, said Jen and pipes up, flashing pearly white teeth at us. I hold back a snort, but just barely. Sasuke isn't normally one to hold grudges, but when he does, not even a woman scorned can match up to him. I'll have to remember that name, though. Lee. Where have I heard that before? The old man coughs, shuffling through some papers on his desk before procuring a scroll sealed with the official symbol of Konoha, dyed a deep red around the edges. If that's settled, let me brief you all on your mission. Oh hell yes! I crow when we emerge out of the Hokage Tower, holding the crimson-lined mission scroll tightly in my hand, having graciously offered to keep it for the night. Can you believe this? I ask, nudging Sakura with an elbow. Our first mission, and we get to smash a load of bandits, and save a village all in one. Sakura nods, smiling shakily. I turn to babble at Sasuke, only to find him glaring at our mentor team. I roll my eyes, poking him in the side. His head whips around to fix me with a sharp look. What? What happened before Sakura and I got to the old man's office? I ask quieter. Sasuke's gaze flickers over to Sakura for a moment, and he responds in an equally low voice. The Hyuga ran his mouth and the green one blindsided me before I could knock him out, he says. The anger is still there, simmering just below the surface of his stony facade. What in the world could have ticked him off so badly in just a few? I wince. Uchiha talk? Sasuke grunts in the affirmative. It's never been a secret that the Hyuga and the Uchiha clans hate each other's guts. Their hate-hate relationship has spanned back to the dawning days of Konoha itself, and only grown larger and worse smelling since then. The Uchiha were technically here first, but not by too much. Besides them, the Hyuga are the oldest clan in Konoha, not counting Senju Tsunade. So as the two oldest clans in the village, who just so happen each contain stupidly powerful Kekai Genkai, which just so happen to both be Jujutsu, it's a given that a little bit of a rivalry would spring up. Too bad that on top of being the oldest and arguably most powerful clans in the village, they're also the biggest assholes. So instead of forming a friendly connection like the Yamanaka, Nara, and Akimichi have going on, they became bitter and near outright hostile enemies. Also too bad that Sasuke hates even talking about his clan. And if that long-haired fruit is as stuck-up as some of the other Hyuga I've had the displeasure of meeting, he probably pushed the ribbing far past Sasuke's admittedly low level of tolerance. You want to corner him during the mission and strangle him with his hair? I ask. Sasuke snorts. Idiot. So who's up for some barbecue on me? I ask loudly, coming to an abrupt stop. Sasuke doesn't even grace my offer with a response, just veers off towards a shortcut to our favorite barbecue joint. Coming, Sakura? My teammate fidgets. I should really get my things together for tomorrow, she says nervously. I wave a hand. Nonsense. The sun isn't even gone yet. Besides, who can resist a free meal? Not me, Kakashi declares, appearing in front of us in a cloud of smoke. My eyes narrow. Sorry, Genin only, I say. Team building experience, you know? Kakashi places a hand over his heart, closing his eye in mock pain, making a little oof sound. So are you coming, Sakura? I ask, ignoring his theatrics. The pink-haired girl bites her lip, one hand coming to rest on her stomach. I suppose she slowly agrees. I grin, hooking a thumb over my shoulder in the direction Sasuke went. Let's go, then. Don't forget to bring your scrolls, Naruto, Kakashi calls after us. Sakura and Sasuke will be perfecting their tree walking on the trip back. I scowl. Touché, Hataki. By the time we make it to Tanaka's, the moon is beginning its ascent, bathing the village in an eerie glow where there are no paper lamps to illuminate things. The barbecue itself is nearly full, and I quickly slip between the various different tables before slipping into the corner booth Sasuke has snagged. Sakura moves in gingerly. Your bruise is still bothering you? I ask. Yeah, she replies quietly. Man, how bad did Kakashi beat her? That salve usually fixes me up right away. A harried waitress stops by our table to take Sakura's and my order, and is off a moment later in a swirl of dirty white cloth. I lean back in the comfy booth and slap the mission scroll down on the round table, picking the already broken seal off and unraveling it. The mission summary is laid out in bold, eye-catching text detailing the village we're being sent to liberate from the bandits and strain Nukneen just off the border of Kusa. The horde itself isn't too special. Only a handful of its members are above C rank. Pretty routine mission, in all honesty. For a Jounin. I can't say I dig the whole shinobi sibling thing, I begin happily. But I'll put up with it any day of the week if it nets me missions like these. Sasuke smirks at that, but Sakura just seems to sink into the booth. Sakura? I ask, cocking my head. She shakes her head. It's nothing, she says. I jest. You're nervous, Sasuke states matter-of-factly. What's there to be nervous about? I ask. We're the best damn students the academy has to offer, and we've got a veteran team to back us up on top of that. I pause. Even if they are jerks. It's not that, she says quickly, lowering her eyes. I'm just worried that I might not pull my weight. You're what? I ask disbelievingly. You massacred those tigers during the genin test for us. What makes you think you won't pull your weight? That was a special circumstance. She sighs. I only have that one barrier seal right now, and it only stops physical attacks. If someone were to hit it with a chakra-enhanced sneeze, it would shatter. It doesn't even have a bottom. Then we'll just have to leave all the bandits to you then, won't we? I retort. You don't even need the barrier seal, Sasuke speaks up. Just keep up a steady chain of kawarimi and pelt the enemy with some of those exploding tags you coated the inside of it with. He hooks a thumb at me. That's more than Naruto can do with his breeze fist. I told you to stop calling it that, Uchiha, I growl. The waitress stops by with our drinks and a quick promise that our food will be out in a moment, and thank you so much for being patient. I break off my stare down with Sasuke to grab my milk and take a long swig. Oh, but does that taste good? My stomach contracts painfully, demanding more, and I hurry to oblige it, gulping the whole cup down in one go. Anyway, I say, what are you guys going to bring tomorrow, you think? I've already got the basic stuff in mind, like a tent and some clothes, but are we thinking heavy or light weaponry? I want to make sure I have enough room for my rations when it's all said and done. And your scrolls, Sakura helpfully reminds me. Thank you, Sakura. I'll be packing all of my weapons, Sasuke says smugly. In a sealing scroll. Ah, right. Chakra defect. Yeah, well. Fuck you too, I retort sourly. The rest of the meal passes with small talk and tons upon tons of roasted beef. Soon enough I'm stumbling out of the restaurant clutching a blissfully full stomach. Sakura slips off with a hurried thanks, and I start trudging towards my apartment. Sasuke walks beside me, a pensive expression on his face. What's going on now? I ask. His brow furrows. Itachi just got back from another S-rank mission, he admits. So another night of fatherly encouragement? I ask dryly. He nods. Well, if you're good with waking up extra early to pack your crap, I guess you can dent my couch for tonight. Thanks. Don't mention it. Sasuke wastes no time collapsing on my comfy old couch when we walk into my apartment, the day's training and the beefy dinner knocking him out as soon as he hits the cushion. I stumble into my room, grab one of the thinner blankets off my mound, and cross back out to toss it over him. Then I set about my nightly routine, discarding all my clothes except for my boxers in the corner of my room with the rest of their kind, getting my teeth brushed, and my kunai and shuriken cleaned up. Then I set to packing. I end up going with my little collapsible tent, 3 sets of orange pants and black t-shirts and boxers. I throw in 10 shuriken, kunai, and saban respectively, though I never seem to use saban these days. The little pack of throwing needles sitting innocently in my backpack, taking up space. Might as well take him anyway. Giving a little shrug, I shove my scrolls on chakra-shaped manipulation in along with a little metal case filled with bandages and water purification tablets, and the like. Not quite a first aid kit, but close enough. I take a quick survey of my room, double-check my bag, and zip it up. Then I slip back into the bathroom, pop a certain tile free, and grab the strongbox underneath. As I slump back onto my bed and crack the scroll open, I glance at the glass door leading to my tiny balcony. Faint shadows cast by the moon are all I see. I should really go to bed soon. Dawn isn't far off, and the western gate will be waiting. When shaping one's chakra for the heavenly chakra chains, it is important to remember. Wake up. Light presses against my closed eyelids and the bed shakes with the force of the pillows slamming into my head. I moan, curling up into a ball, clutching my blankets tightly around me. The cool, smooth texture of my scroll presses up against my cheek. It promptly rolls off the bed in a clatter of noise after a second smash to my head. Go get your stuff, I mumble into my pillow. Stupid Uchiha waking me up when I've already packed my stuff. I already did, he says, annoyed. I even told you before I left. Really? I stumble fuzzily through my most recent memories, but come up with some blurry words on paper and not much else. What time is it? I ask my pillow. 5 minutes until we need to be at the gate. My eyes snap open. The next 3 minutes consist of diving into a freezing cold shower, spending far too little time rinsing shampoo from my hair, hopping into a pair of dirty orange pants in the direction of the front door, and tackling Sasuke out of said door. From there I throw my chakra at my back and explode up onto a roof and across Konoha while Sasuke cheats and disappears in a Shenshin. I'm late, I'm so late, I chant to myself, hopping up onto a balcony and then off onto the roof above it, pushing harder and harder on my chakra. I nearly cry in relief when I see the end of the waves of residential rooftops, and push for the final stretch. I'm here! I shout, leaping into open air and abruptly yanking back on my chakra, slowing my descent and allowing me to land in a skidding crouch. Sakura watches me in bemusement as I shake the dirt and pebbles off of my thoroughly scraped hands, and the Hyuga Genin sneers at me from his spot amongst his teammates. Most impressive, Shinobi-san, Lee says, appearing in front of me like spandex magic. A truly dynamic entry. I take a slow step back. Thanks, I reply. A thought occurs to me, and I stick out a hand, if reluctantly. I'm Naruto, by the way. Lee beams, gripping it tightly and shaking it vigorously. And I am Rock Lee. It's a pleasure meeting you, Naruto-san, he declares, releasing my aching hand. I look forward to fighting alongside you during our mission. You too. I turn to Sakura. Hey, have you seen Sasuke? He should have gotten here before me. Sakura shakes her head mutely. I hum pensively, reaching up to adjust a shoulder strap. That isn't there. My backpack. I wail, fisting my hands in my hair. My slippery, soapy hair. Fantastic. I can't believe I forgot my freaking backpack. Of all the damn things. You're pretty stupid, Sasuke agrees. I whip around, and there's my backpack, hanging by a pale, slender finger. I splutter a question, but Sasuke cuts me off. I doubled back to your apartment. Also, you left your front door unlocked. The girl on Lee's team snickers. I take the backpack with a muttered thanks and sling it over my shoulders, then proceed to slump over to the wall, and resign myself to a shameful wait. It turns out to be a short one, as Kakashi appears in front of us with his face in his little orange book. A breath later, tendrils of chakra smoke drifting off him. Not a beat later, a clamber from above signals Team 9 Sensei arriving in an entry magnitudes more dynamic than mine, exploding off a roof and hitting the ground in a somersault, rolling once, twice, and standing up with a flourish. He grins wide and pearly, only to frown in dismay when he catches sight of his silver-haired peer. Alas, my eternal rival! He cries. You have bested me yet again. That means we are tied once more at 67. Bested him in what? I ask curiously. Kakashi squints. You know, I don't recall. What your sensei means to say is that we were competing to see which was superior, his Shunshine or my raw speed. Guys quickly supplies. His head dips. It seems I need to train harder. Lee rushes forward, fists clenched. I will train with you, Guy Sensei, so I too can defeat my rival. The green Jounin brightens at once. I expect nothing less of my student. Did he just say he was racing against your Shenshin? I ask incredulously. The guy only got here a couple seconds after Kakashi. Looks like it, Kakashi replies, oblivious to my incomprehension. Hey, are you guys leaving the village or not? A voice calls from the small wooden stall attached to the side of the wall. If not, go away. It's too early for this shit. Guy and Lee quiet mid-shout, the latter looking embarrassed and the former annoyed. That is hardly polite, Shinobi-san, he reprimands, heading over to the stall, Lee and his teammates following faithfully behind. I look at my sensei, leaning against the wall beside me with his face in his book, lost to the world. Whatever, I mutter, moving after Team 9. The grumpy voice turns out to belong to a familiar-looking Chunin in his 20s, with droopy eyes and a bandana obscuring the top of his head. A mug of coffee is clutched tightly in one hand, a clipboard in the other. I squint at him, struggling to recall where and when I met him before. All right, sign your name and rank here, along with the names of your genin. The rookie team you're buddying up with goes there. You'll need their Jounin sensei to sign here, blah blah blah. You know the drill. He drawls, handing over a battered-looking clipboard. He catches me staring and raises an eyebrow. Enjoying the view, kid? I remember you. I snap my fingers, grinning. You're the proctor that checked out my chakra for the admissions test. The Chunin, Izumo, stares at me in confusion for a moment before realization washes over his features. Oh, Naruto. Yeah, I remember you too, kid. Hey, what happened with your chakra? Did Hokage-sama get you fixed up? My grin fades. Nah, my chakra is still retarded, I say honestly. That sucks. Made it work anyway though, I see. He shoots me a thumbs up. Good on you. We exchange a few more pleasantries. Izumo complains about his partner, currently snoring away in a chair in the back corner of the stall, and soon enough Guy is finishing up the paperwork with yet another flourish, handing it back to the gate guard. He looks over the sheet. Scroll? Guy turns expectantly to me, and I sling my backpack off and dig through its contents, procuring the mission scroll and passing it over to Izumo. He doesn't even bother cracking it open, just runs a thumb over the Hokage's seal and grunts, handing it back to me. Looks good. Now get out. He pauses, considering Guy's stern glare. Please. The boisterous Jounin sighs. And a good day to you too, Chunin-san. We proceed through the gates, Sakura and Sasuke joining me on either side, into the wilderness beyond Konoha. And promptly stop. I watch in bemusement as Guy and Lee do a complete 180 in attitude, suddenly all business. The Hyuga prick and the girl, well, they never left business mode in the first place. The three veteran genin stand at attention, awaiting orders. I glance uncertainly between my own teammates, and straighten up my posture. Just a bit. My students, Guy says seriously. From this moment on we will be traveling at a brisk pace towards the objective village. As this is your first joint mission with a less experienced team, I expect you to keep a constant guard up, and when we begin the mission I expect you to guide and protect them at all times. There can be no room for error. Understood? Yes, Guy-sensei, they chorus. Guy nods sharply. Formation. The three genin split off, forming a spearhead formation. The Hyuga genin takes point, Lee takes the right side, and the girl the left. I will take point as well, Guy declares, stepping up beside his student. I guess that leaves me with the rear, Kakashi says, having somehow appeared right behind me with me being none the wiser. What about us? Sasuke asks. Kakashi rubs his chin thoughtfully. Let's say a simple horizontal formation for now, Naruto and Sasuke on the left and right respectively, Sakura in the middle. The three of us stare at him, baffled at the serious answer. Kakashi claps his hands impatiently. Come on now, you three. You're making me look bad. He whines. And it's gone. Ready? Guy's voice rings. I nod silently. Yes, Guy-sensei, Team 9 choruses again. Creepy. Then let us go. Break for camp, Kakashi calls. Never have I heard a more beautiful sound. I stagger off the path we've been beating to death for the past 12-something hours, allowing my backpack to fall off of my aching shoulders and thump onto a nice enough looking patch of grass. I perform a bleary and admittedly pitiful sweep of the area and quickly choose a spot to go take a leak at. I nearly collapse against the tree I end up using. I'm so beat. I'm making my way back to my spot when I trip over something squishy on the ground, which turns out to be Sakura, who offers little more than a pained moan in response. I consider crawling the rest of the way to my backpack, but unfortunately it seems Sasuke has rubbed off on me and my pride forces me back on my feet. Setting up my single tent is a painful experience, but at the end of it I feel loose enough to join Sasuke by the small fire he started up on a grassless patch of earth. I slump into a cross-legged position and relish in the warmth of the chakra flames as night falls around us. Kakashi takes up a spot leaning against a nearby tree, happily reading, while Team 9 puts together their own camp and throws down some traps. I spend a few seconds trying to commit to memory before giving up. I fall back, cross my arms behind my head, and stare up at the emerging stars. The trees of Fire Country's forests, though a far cry from those in Konoha, stand tall, dark brown, and dense above us, chopping the night sky up into slivers. My eyes droop. Hey, Kakashi, I say, quietly for no other reason than I'm feeling far too lazy to raise my voice. HM? How far are we from the village? I ask. Only a couple more hours from here, at the pace we kept today. I yawn. That's something, at least. Are we going to have a guard rotation tonight? Kakashi leans into view above me, shaking his head. That's what Guy's team is for. I'll probably spend some time around here as well before I turn in. Besides, I don't think I can trust you to watch over me just yet, he says, his upside-down eye crinkling into an upside-down crescent. A stray voice in the back of my head insists that I've just been grievously insulted as a shinobi, but the much bigger, sleepier voice asserts that a lack of guard rotation can only mean good things for me. What's the plan for tomorrow? I press, however. Scout the place out? Send in a couple of us in to take down the big guys and open things up from the inside out? Nope, Kakashi says cheerfully. If Hokage-sama wanted that to happen, he'd have sent a scouting team or an infiltration specialist. We're just going to blow their door off their hinges and crush them under our feet. Oh. Get some sleep, Naruto, Kakashi suggests, snapping his book closed and sitting down himself in front of the fire. Sitting up, I notice Team 9 and Sakura have disappeared into their tents. Guy is nowhere to be seen. Something occurs to me, and I glance over at Sasuke. Hey, you wouldn't happen to have a spare sleeping bag, would you? I ask, as I asked him just about every single academy training trip we ever went on. Sasuke sighs, but nonetheless reaches into his backpack and pulls out a scroll, taps a glowing blue finger to it, and throws me the navy blue sleeping bag that appears from within. Thanks. This time I don't even bother with pride. Everyone I care about judging me is either asleep or gone, anyway. Why bother? I crawl over part the opening of my tent and slip through, unroll the sleeping bag with one flick of my wrists, and shimmy in. Warmth envelopes me, my eyes drift closed, and my last thought before sweet unconsciousness claims me is one I've thought a dozen times before. The Uchiha may be jerks by and large, but they make a damn good sleeping bag. I'm standing in a ruin. The sun bleeds crimson red light over the shattered village, shrouding half of it in shadow and illuminating the other in a bloody glow. It had been a magnificent village. The remains of tall, intricately built stone buildings and towers riddled the land. A long wooden bridge lays crushed and half submerged in the water separating the two halves of the village. There isn't a single building to be found not covered in beautiful spiraling seals. Broken seals. I'm shaking. Whether it's in anguish or fury or both, I can't tell. My eyes sweep across the village, hoping to see a seal flicker and die and reveal that they'd managed to hide, that they were still alive. Something. I step carefully into the village. There's nothing left to break, a bitter voice in the back of my mind observes, but I'm careful nonetheless. I walk through the street, desperately searching for a survivor amongst the corpses. I arrive at the edge of the outlying portion of the village with nothing to show for. I have never taken the bridge before, but even still the sight of it torn asunder nearly robs me of my senses for my rage. My search through the main half of the village is even less fruitful. I find twice as many corpses, and no survivors. Finally, I find myself standing in front of the remains of the tallest building in the village. Even now, broken in two, it rises high above the rest of the ruin. I peer into each of the windows, and in each I see nothing but broken furniture and broken people. I collapse into a sitting position, shaking harder. They're gone. They're all gone. My last chance, and they killed them. I close my eyes, and for a moment I can feel a reassuring hand on my head, hear an old, wizened voice in my ear. Grief crashes against me harder than the tallest wave. But anger wins out. I lurch to my feet, snarling, and sprint north, across the water separating the dead village from the rest of the world, until I can see nothing but endless blue on all sides. I sprint on and on and on, past the endless sea, into the land of boiling springs. I find them there, in the remains of another broken village, mocking and shouting and laughing. They've ruined everything and they're laughing. They've forsaken themselves and all the rest of their kin, and they don't even care. I see red. My control, the control I've held where my brothers and sisters failed one by one, slips, writhes, snaps. I descend upon the first of them, hear them scream, feel the metal slab carved with the likeness of two overlapping rocks shatter under the weight of my fury. I grow angrier still. Crimson floods my vision. Nothing. I jerk awake, gasping and shivering, covered in a cold sweat. Thrashing out of the suffocating hold of my sleeping bag, I stumble out of my tent. Cool air kisses my skin as I rush past Sakura's tent into the forest, until I come upon the small stream I'd noticed while relieving myself. Falling to my knees, I dip my cupped hands into the icy water and splash my face over and over and over. I'm still attempting to chase any remaining drowsiness from my eyes when Sasuke sits down next to me, regarding me with solemn, bloodshot eyes. I lean back, blinking the excess water out of my eyes, and shudder. Crimson Dream? Sasuke asks quietly. I nod. It's been months since I've had what Sasuke has taken to calling the Crimson Dreams, and I haven't missed them. I remember every single one in terrible detail when I wake up, and they never fade. Every one is monstrously violent, and in the dreams I'm so furious I can't even string together a proper thought. It's frightening. Different, I say hoarsely. And it was. They've forsaken themselves. How? Sasuke presses. It started different. I was still angry, but I was sad too. And I was thinking, but they weren't my thoughts, and they don't make any sense. I exhaled shakily. There was a village. It had been destroyed by a bunch of shinobi. IWA Nin, I think. I don't know when though. I don't know why. I clenched my eyes tightly shut. I felt it happen, Sasuke. I felt myself go insane under the weight of it all. I was so angry. It was unreal. He doesn't respond to that, probably because he doesn't know how. I can't say I blame him. So we sit there, in the final hours of the night, silent. Sasuke contemplates the sky while I stare blindly at the clear waters of the softly murmuring stream. After a while, when I've regained a precious sliver of my composure, I try to connect tonight's crimson dream with all the others. They don't match up, of course. They never do. The sun begins to rise. I watch its rays reflect off the stream, watch a myriad of shapes come to life, and wonder what it would look like in the bloody light of the sun from my dream. Shaking my head, I lurch to my feet. The cold finally hits me then, sending goosebumps prickling along my bare torso. I turn back to camp, Sasuke following silently behind me. I don't thank him. It wouldn't be enough. I throw my t-shirt and sandals on, dismantle my tent, triple-check my weapons, and finally sit down with a rations bar and wait. The girl from Team 9 is the first to awake, midway through my third bar, emerging from her tent with a rations bar of her own held between her teeth while her fingers work at the buttons of her shirt. She doesn't dismantle her tent when she's finished eating, instead taking a large bite out of the bar and walking over to the tent beside hers. She reaches an arm in and heaves Lee out's sleeping bag and all. The odd genin doesn't even twitch when she throws him down, just snores loudly. Looks like all that enthusiasm took its toll, I say wryly. You don't even know, she responds ruefully, wolfing down another bar and kicking her cocoon teammate sharply. Wake up, you idiot! Despite her best efforts, it's the Hyuga that rises next, nodding shortly at the girl and sneering at Sasuke before turning to his tent. Lastly comes Sakura, rubbing at her eyes with one hand and fussing at her hair with the other. Kakashi drops down from a tree, looking his usual pleasant self, and Guy soon follows, appearing at the edge of the forest with a couple rabbits in hand and a cheerful grin on his face. It isn't until the rabbits are all cooked and the delicious smell of them is wafting through the air that Lee wakes up, just in time to catch a sandaled foot to the face courtesy of his female teammate. Alright, here's the deal, Kakashi says while we tear into the freshly caught meat. The objective is only a couple hours away from here at a brisk pace, so we're going to iron out the details now so we can jump right into the fun when we get there. He pulls a kunai from his weapons pouch and crouches in the middle of the dirt path we travel by, gesturing for us to join him. Sasuke and Sakura take up a spot over each shoulder, and Team 9 follows suit after an encouraging nod from Guy. This is the village, Kakashi says, carving out a rough representation of the outer walls and a few houses in the dirt. Next he carves a jumbled mix of DS, CS, and a few BS inside of the walls. If our intel is correct, we can expect 14 to 16 bandits and rogues in all. Most will be D-ranked, a couple will be C-ranked, and 3 will be B-ranked. Then he draws 2 as. These are their leaders, a couple of Nuke Nin from Kiri. Guy and I will be taking care of them, and the 3 BS. He draws AK and AG outside of the walls along with 2 arrows heading into the village. Then he scuffs out the letters and redraws them, the DS and CS firmly on one side of the village and the BS and S on the other. We're going to separate the small fry from the annoyances for you, and take care of the latter ourselves. Next he draws an S and an L, an S and a T, and an N and an N, all in pairs side by side. Sasuke and Lee are going to pair off as the heavy hitters of their respective teams, Sakura and Tenten as the long-range strikers, and Naruto and Neji as the precision fighters. I'm sorry, what? I blurt. Did you just call me a precision fighter? Relative to your teammates, of course. He smiles widely. Don't worry, you'll always be a reckless idiot to me. That one's going to cost you, Hataki. I fall silent under the weight of my comrades' snickers and smirks, defeated for now. Kakashi gives me one last evil eye crinkle and turns back to his illustrations in the dirt. As I was saying, Sasuke and Lee are going to lead the opening assault on the bandits. Sakura and Tenten will provide support, and hopefully break whatever ranks they manage to form entirely. From there, Naruto and Neji will come in to clean things up. Sound good? I nod grudgingly along with everyone else, and Kakashi swipes his hand back and forth across the picture, obscuring it into nothingness. Then let's get started. The village is bigger than I thought it would be. A lot bigger. When I first read through the mission scroll, I'd assumed it would be smaller than the residential district back in Konoha, maybe the focus of a lumber company or some such. In reality, it looks like an abandoned fortress more than anything else. sprawling out several miles wide and surrounded by stone walls rising at least 20 feet high, decorated with dozens of miniature guard towers atop each corner and along the tops of the walls. It looks like someone tore it out of an academy textbook. How did a few crappy bandits take this place? I murmur, peering out from behind my bush. My partner rolls his eyes. Or I think he does, at least. Never can tell with those pale eyes. It was obviously abandoned years ago, if not decades, he says scornfully, though he keeps his voice equally quiet. There are empty spaces peppering the walls where stones have fallen or been broken off, and the nearest tower is half-rotted. It was likely left behind after the Second Great Shinobi War, and some weakling farmers came along to repopulate it. I squint at the distant structure. I can't see any holes, I admit. Pity. Watch it, Hyuga, I warn. Unfortunately, Sasuke and his easily pushable buttons have spoiled me, and the veteran genin only sneers at the use of his clan name. Silence reigns, and I spot a bandit appearing atop of the wall. It's probably unnecessary with a Byakugan user right next to me, but I watch him closely anyway. He makes a few lazy circuits about the wall, disappearing out of my sight for 2 or 3 minutes at a time and then reappearing on the other side of the wall, throwing his head back every so often to take a swig of whatever drink it is he has on him. Suddenly, he halts and turns, staring right at my bush. My muscles coil tightly, my teeth clench, and the man watches. He reaches for his belt, and my breath freezes in my throat. A stream of piss arcs off the wall, shining in the light of the rising sun. Nice, I sigh, relaxing. I pull my hand back, allowing the leaves to snap back into place, and lean into the stiff foliage, studying my partner. He sits cross-legged just behind me, eyes wide open and seemingly staring off into space. The veins around them bulge grotesquely, shining dimly with chakra. If I'm honest with myself, he's probably perusing the selection of scrolls the bandits have locked away in chests deep inside the fortress instead of tracking any enemy traffic. And looking through my clothes. Damn, Hyuga. So what's the deal with you and Sasuke? I ask. He doesn't reply. Different question, then. Why was he getting all down and dirty with your teammate in Old Man Hokage's office? Wait. That didn't come out right at all. The Uchiha tried to attack me, Niji says coolly, ignoring my unfortunate innuendo. A little smirk curls his lips. Lee educated him as to the skill gap between us. What's that supposed to mean? I challenge. It means you're weak. We'll see who's weak when I beat your girly ass into the dirt, I growl. He scoffs. Big talk and nothing to back it up. A sure sign of a weakling. What is your problem? I ask, gripping my hair in frustration. What did you say to Sasuke to get him so angry? Why did you say it? If possible, his face becomes even more stoic. I merely pointed out a few truths, he says softly. Dangerously. I lower my hands, watching him carefully. He couldn't handle them. He turns his head sharply away. If you can. We lapse into a tense silence, while I chew on his words and he stares unblinkingly through our cover at the fortress. A few truths, huh? It really was just more clan nonsense then. I scowl, leaning back into my bush. I swear, if I had a jutsu for every time I've seen the Uchiha and the Hyuga being jerks to each other, I'd be the old man. They're approaching the wall. The words snap me from my musings instantly, and I scramble back into my given position. My partner untangles his legs, creeping forward. They've gained the wall. Splitting off. Something settles uncomfortably in my stomach, hot and heavy. I finger a shuriken in my pouch while my heartbeat slams against my chest. Contact, he reports. A moment later a fire dragon lunges up into the air from inside the fortress, arcing up with a thunderous roar and crashing back down. A monstrous crash echoes in my ears. Lee is moving in. What about Sasuke? I ask, alarmed. Him too, he admits grudgingly. Fucking Hyuga. I find myself with a kunai in my hand, flipping my grip back and forth, eyes wide with anticipation. My partner tenses. Tenten and your teammate have reached the northmost guard tower. They've established contact. He tenses, not moving a single muscle. Now. I explode out of the bush like a wrathful bijou, any and all semblance of stealth literally gone with the wind as I push my chakra as hard as I can at my back. I fly down the road at the fortress, homing in on a gaping hole in the wall that wasn't there a minute ago. Niji pulls up beside me, the veins around his eyes standing even starker against his skin, and goes past me up and through the hole in the wall. I leap clean through it. The abandoned stronghold is just as impressive on the inside as it is on the outside, filled with stout wooden huts pressed up against the village walls. The center of the village looks to have been converted from whatever it was in the past to a massive plot for farming, complete with gutted oxen corpses and shattered wooden plows strewn across the dirt. Sasuke and Lee are in the center of the ruined plots, locked into hand with a hulking bandit swinging a warhammer and a smaller man sporting a slashed headband with a katana respectively. There are already 3 bandits down for the count, 2 out cold in the plot, and 1 lying on the ground just inside the wall with an oozing cut across his neck. The skin he'd been drinking from leaks a liquid of the same color, mingling with the blood. I turn away from the corpse, Irika's lectures on the rules of shinobi rushing to the forefront of my thoughts. Rule 25. A shinobi must never show emotion. Always remember. Put them out of your mind if you must, shuffle them away for a later date, but do not let them control you. Niji slips in between Lee and the Nuke-Nin and gets to poking, and I set my sights on the behemoth Sasuke is dancing around. I put on a burst of speed and soar over a rotting ox, right arm swinging out wide. The bandit notices me at the last second, but by then it's far too late. Lariat! This one doesn't trip. My arm curls around his thick bull neck and is nearly yanked out of its socket. The bandit chokes, teeters, and falls on his back, dropping his warhammer and scrabbling at his neck while I back off and thank anything and everything that might be listening for chakra and momentum. Sasuke darts in and kicks him once, right in the temple, and he's out. I point at the downed enemy, throwing the look Sasuke's way. That's how you take a hit. Sasuke rolls his eyes. Maybe if you weren't coming at me with wrestling moves you'd hit me more often. He counters. My partner steps in before I can respond with something equally witty, a harsh expression on his face. Talk when the mission is over, he says acidly. He flicks his head towards one of the shacks where a bandit is stumbling out, fumbling with his pants and gripping the hilt of his sword in his teeth, and takes off. I feel your pain, I mouth at my glaring Uchiha teammate, and turn and chase after the veteran genin. He's within arm's reach before the moron of a warrior can even transfer his sword from his teeth to his hand, gracefully ducks a panicked haymaker, and jabs the man in his stomach and his chest in quick succession. The bandit collapses in a convulsing heap and my partner disappears into the building. I stop just short of the door, perhaps my gut or perhaps straight paranoia prompting me to take a glimpse in through the small glass window on next to the door first. I see Niji, crouched in the signature Hyuga Taijutsu stance, and a naked man holding an equally naked and sobbing woman up with a short blade pressed against her throat. My partner is saying something, but I can't hear it over the blood roaring in my ears. I duck back, breathing heavily and focusing on my clenched, shaking fists. I glance around, see Sasuke and Lee taking on 3 more bandits on the other side of the fortress, and nothing else. All clear. Then I turn and scale the shack's walls, silent as a shadow. I pull myself up onto the roof, creep across its wooden surface to the cobble chimney, and ease into it. Stealth training don't fail me now. I slide down into the fireplace, and get an immediate eyeful of bare bandit ass. Then I get an earful of stupid bandit voice. And if you don't get the hell out of here right the fuck now, you stupid little shit, I'm going to open her up ear to ear and. I slam the ring of one of my standard kunai into his neck as hard as I can, and he collapses like a rotten tree in a hurricane. The clatter of his blade hitting the wood floor mingles with his desperate wheezing and the naked woman's sobbing. She collapses to her knees and I drop down beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. It's horrifically bruised, along with most of the rest of her skin. What small amount that isn't is pale and fair. I'm reminded uncomfortably of Sakura. Hey, I say softly. She flinches away from my hand, shaking her brown-haired head side to side. You're going to be fine, I assure her, trying a different approach. My team and I aren't going to let them touch you guys, you have my word as a shinobi. She only sobs harder. Leave her, Niji says suddenly beside me. He reaches down and taps 2 fingers to the struggling bandit's forehead. He falls limp, mid-wheeze. She'll be safer in here anyway. Guy-sensei can handle her when we're done. That makes sense, I agree reluctantly. I make sure to throw a blanket from the nearby cot over her shoulders before we leave, though, and drag the unconscious body out with us. Sasuke and Lee are putting the finishing touches on the last bandit by the time I've deposited the man up face first against the ass of a dead ox. The finishing blow on the bandit ends up coming from afar, however, in the form of a throwing axe of all things lodging itself in the ratty woman's head after cutting a path just past Lee's head. I find myself too incredulous to be revolted as I turn towards the tower. Are you serious? I shout. You could have missed and taken your own teammate's head off. And who even uses throwing axes anyway? Tenten appears in front of me in a cloud of smoke, swinging another axe around on her finger like some oversized kunai, a condescending smile on her face. Silly boy, she coos. I never miss. I'm going to assist Guy-sensei, Niji announces suddenly, nodding once to Tenten and Lee, and turning and sprinting deeper into the maze of plots and buildings. A magnificent idea! I will join you, my rival, Lee declares. He bows quickly and takes off in the same direction at breakneck speed. Well, that's nice of them, Tenten says wryly. I think I'm going to gather up the civilians myself. She turns to holler at the guard tower. Hey Sakura! You want to help me out? Sakura appears in an identical cloud of chakra smoke next to her, and nods shyly. And then there were two, I drawl as they trot away to the nearest shack. So what do you think? Not bad for our first mission, eh? I ask Sasuke as he makes a round of the open plot, gathering up his kunai and shuriken. He grunts. Oh come on, I say in exasperation. Lighten up. We got to kick a few bandits around, rescued some civilians, and you got the bulk of the action. You didn't even get paired with the jerk. I slap him on the back in the middle of reaching for a kunai and send him stumbling. Anyway, I continue, skillfully ignoring his poisonous look. Think of it this way, we're one step closer to not having to put up with him anymore. How many joint missions can they give us before we prove we're capable? A wonderful thought occurs to me, and I grin. And if you want to be really optimistic, you can say we're one step closer to becoming Chunin and not having to put up with Kakashi. I finish happily. Sasuke pockets the last of his weapons, shaking his head. I'll count this as a step when I've got the mission payment in my hands. Isn't that a pity? A deep voice drawls. I spin around with a startled shout, calling chakra to my hands, only to see a gray blur swooping in past my guard. The punch hits me like a freight train in the stomach, and I see stars. I fly back, rolling across torn-up ground and broken wood, and vomit my rations all over the dirt. Something whistles sharply in my ears, followed by a clanging of metal on metal. A shadow falls over me, which I decide is Sasuke after a few seconds fighting to see through the tears in my eyes. I hate to piss on your festival just when you thought you had it in the bag, but the fun's just starting, kids, the man says mockingly. I grit my teeth and stand, clutching my stomach, and step out from behind my teammate. The man who sucker punched me stands in the gouge my feet tore up in the process of being sent flying, arms crossed over his chest. He's as tall as Kakashi, and even more muscular than Guy. Tattered gray cargos cover his legs and filthy gray bandages coil tightly around his biceps. A headband decorated with 3 clouds slashed through the middle shines from its place wrapped overtop the bandages on his right bicep. The ashen skin of his chest is bare except for a bulky, unzipped vest. A Chunin vest. Sasuke, I say lowly, fingers digging into the thin fabric of the shirt covering my stomach. Go get Sakura and Tenten. Are you out of your mind? Sasuke demands out of the corner of his mouth. He just downed you in one hit. It was a sucker punch, I insist. I can take him while you get them. That's stupid. Let's just take care of him ourselves. 4 genin are better than 1. And what if he's not alone? I ask. Realization sparks in his eyes. Exactly. Go. I can see him about to protest, maybe tell me to go instead, but suddenly the nuke Nin from Kyumo sighs dramatically and disappears in a flash of chakra, appearing in front of him. The Chunin draws a fist back, crackling with white lightning, and sends a punch at Sasuke's face. Instinct shoves me forward, sends chakra screaming through my veins, and I slam an open palm strike into his side. Wind explodes from my skin, sending him skidding. Go! I shout, pulling upon more chakra and relishing in the feel of it rising in my stomach, chasing the pain away. Sasuke nods curtly, vanishing in a shunshin. I relax into my taijutsu stance. Smart move, the nuke Nin allows, studying me with a bit more critically. Too bad for him my buddy isn't going to be as easy as these weaklings were. He spits on a bandit riddled with Samban. You're one of the B-ranks, I guess. Couldn't handle the Jounin then? Had to make do with the genin instead? An angry opponent is a reckless opponent, Irika lectures me. And a reckless opponent is a dead opponent. Of course, he agrees. I just got my rank, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let the copycat take it away from me. Then why don't you run? He shrugs. Because my superiors are probably going to kill your sensei eventually. I'm just making sure I don't get caught in any unnecessary crossfire, you know? Oh, and I'm waiting on my buddy while he plays with your little kunoichi friends. A vile grin creeps across his face. He likes them young. I explode forward, a kunai clutched in each hand, nearly spitting with rage. Electricity dances around the Nukanin's biceps down to his hands, and with one hand he lashes out. I drift just outside of his reach, then dart in, lashing out at his vulnerable chest. He jerks back and slaps my hand away, and my arm goes numb. Oh, awesome. I jump back, focusing on pushing chakra through my arm, praying for elemental superiority to come through for me. A moment later it does, when my arm erupts into a painfully tingling mess. It moves, though, And not a moment too soon. The Chunin bears down upon me, hands clasped overhead in a hammer blow. I throw my hands out and blast him with chakra. The electricity on his arms flickers and dies, but he struggles through the wind and brings fists down on my head. My knees give out underneath me, and it's all I can do to roll out of the way of the stomp that would have finished the job on my head. I see two of him rushing towards me, decide it doesn't really matter if one is a bunshin or a hallucination, and pick one and throw up a cross block in front of his strike. I block it solidly, but the impact drives me up to my ankles in the loose earth. I duck another hit and loose my kunai. At point-blank range I can't exactly miss, but in my dazed state I try my best. One lodges itself in the ultra-thick fabric of his Chunin vest, and the other cuts a deep line through the bandages on his left bicep and goes flying off, leaving a pitiful cut to show for my efforts. He rushes forward and nails me in the jaw while I'm struggling to get out of the ground. Why is it always the head? I stare fuzzily up at the cloudless blue sky, pondering the ringing in my ears. A scarred face and gray, close-cropped hair obscures my vision. "That's a nice trick you've got with your wind," he says appreciatively. "But it's a far, far cry from." He pauses, cocking his head. The dull roar of rushing water drifts from deeper into the village, and soil made sticky with blood clings to my cheek when I turn my head to see its source. 3 enormous water dragons crash through buildings and wash over plots, heading straight for us. My opponent hums bemusedly, flitting through the seals for the Kawarini. The ground shifts underneath me. "Looks like it's drowning for you, kid. Sorry about that." He throws me a smirk, locking his hands into the serpent hand seal. And then a brown mastiff bigger than I am sporting a Konoha headband lunges up out of the dirt and tackles him, clamping its slobbering jaw down on his shoulder. The Nukenin falls, howling curses, and I struggle to get back on my feet. I fail. The sound of the approaching water dragons grows deafening. I try again and fail. Another dog, this one smaller and sleeker with an identical headband, nudges at my shoulder. I stare blearily at it, and it shoves its head under my arm. I manage to gain my feet this time, and we totter away while the Nukenin and the mastiff wrestle in the soil. I'm just beginning to achieve a steady gait when one of the dragons clips me. The dog's jaw clamps down on my pant leg, and for a second holds, but then the orange fabric tears and I'm washed away with the Swait on Jutsu. The first thing that occurs to me is that it's freezing. During our training sessions, Kakashi's water dragons and bullets and whips were always lukewarm, but this washes away the fuzziness in my head instantly and it's chill. A pounding headache immediately takes its place, but it's a small price to pay for coherency. Having come to my senses, I grasp blindly amidst the chaos of the Jutsu, uncomfortably aware of what will happen if I don't stop myself soon. Splat, right against the wall. I catch on something hard and smooth. It jerks, and I feel something connected to it pop and almost tear, but it holds. I duck my head, clutch whatever it is, and wait for the dragons to pass. They finally do when my lungs are about to burst and my grip has slipped to 3 fingers, their pressure disappearing all at once from around me. I collapse onto something large and muscled and reeking. I consider the pointed white horn in my hand, and the snapped neck of the ox corpse. "That was almost really painful," I grunt, pushing off the dead beast. Another jutsu shakes the earth beneath my feet, and I whirl around in time to see a shinobi dressed in browns and yellows go rocketing past me towards and through the stone wall of the fortress. Ouch. "Stupid mutt!" a furious voice roars. "Electro choke." A particularly large mound of mud suddenly comes alive with electric white chakra, and I cringe at the piercing yelp that follows. Something pops, and chakra smoke drifts up from the mound. Then it shifts, and the Kumo Nukenin staggers up, the arms sporting his headband covered in mud and scarlet blood from the wound in his shoulder. He's covered head to toe in smaller scratches, and his pants have been torn near to shreds. He locks wrathful green eyes with me. "It's a shame," he growls, stalking forward. "I was going to give you a chance, see if you could hold on through the water." He bares his teeth in a nasty smile. "Now, though, I think I'm mad enough just to kill you." He hurtles forward, dodging the shuriken I send whistling towards him with ease and making yet another bid for my face. I jerk to the side, feel my cheek tingle painfully as the screeching lightning chakra brushes past it, and nail him in the gut. He slides back a step, but is otherwise unharmed. I press for an opening, calling wind to my fingertips and slamming into his guard. I dip into my weapons pouch, pull out a double-ended kunai, and stab it forward. He catches my wrist and squeezes it painfully. Electricity dances around his bicep, and I hurriedly channel chakra down my own arm. The two elements clash briefly, and his subsides. He scowls. "Gotta admit," he says, taking a step forward. I yank on my arm in vain, try to jab at his throat, but he catches that hand in his own as well. "That wind is getting really annoying." Another step. I push harder, harder, and harder still, but it's no use. I can't get any tractions in the muck of the field. My sandals begin to sink into the ground again. Step, step, step. His hand tightens around my wrist. Naruto. Lightning release. Lightning beast. And just like that he lets me go, leaping back with a panicked shout. A breath later, a hound as big as the mastiff made of crackling blue electricity flashes through the spot he'd just been, crashing into the mud and dissipating. I trace the rapidly deteriorating strand of chakra connected to the beast back to Kakashi, perched atop a guard tower. What do you think you're doing? He shouts. You can't go head-to-head in taijutsu with someone like that all by yourself. Well, what am I supposed to do? I holler back, just before a veritable hail of fireballs come hurtling from further down the wall towards the jounin. He drops off the wall, pressing his hands into the ground as soon as he lands and raising a slab of damp earth to absorb an incoming deluge of kunai and shuriken. Use your wind. Dodge, he says. Then he disappears in a swirl of leaves. What did I tell you? The Chunin laughs, climbing to his feet. Poor copycat can't even take a few seconds to help his student out. He practically saunters over to me, his savage grin enhanced by the electricity surrounding him. He's going to die, that green freak is going to die, your kunoichi are going to die, he breaks off, flashing forward. But you're gonna die first. He swings, and I slide back a step. His fist goes crackling past. He pivots, throwing roundhouse kick at my face. I duck. He makes for an uppercut at my gut, but I blow it to the side with a burst of wind. He scowls. Cute. Let's see how long you can keep that up, he says, lunging. I dance around the field, jump and ducking and redirecting with my chakra where I can, looking for an opening to exploit, hoping for reinforcements to come. He rips a slab of wood from a wrecked plow and swings it at me. I stop on a dime and throw my weight into a punch, shattering the slab and spinning around him when he tries to grab me. He slides into a crouch and sweeps at my feet, but instead of jumping to avoid it, I throw out my hands and buffet him with wind, knocking him off balance. With every dodged punch, his eyebrows furrow deeper. After every redirected kick, his jaw clenches a little tighter. And every time I smother his element with my own, his breath grows a little more ragged. Finally, he stops his pursuit, glaring hatefully at me. I bet you think you're real slick, he snarls. Think you've got me all figured out. You don't though, and you're not. You're dead. His hands flash through hand seals. I hurriedly grab a ring of shuriken from my pouch and let loose, only for them to hit the corpse of one of the bandits. Kawari me. I whirl around, but the nuke Nin is already locking his hands into the horse seal. Electro Blitz. Blue chakra flares around him, and before I can do anything, he slams into me, sending me sprawling. I claw my way to my feet, fighting through the numbness left behind by his body slam. His chakra flares again. Electro Blitz. I'm diving away before the first syllable is out of his mouth, but he still clips me, snapping my arm back. I manage to roll up into a crouch, rubbing forcefully at my stinging appendage. He passes at me again, knocking me senseless. He turns to me, one hand clenched into a fist, the other held in a half-horse seal. Like that? He taunts. Lifted the idea from the rakeage himself. He flashes forward again, but this time I'm prepared. I juke desperately to the right, watch him shoot by. My eyes narrow. He makes a few more passes, but now I know his game, and I dodge everyone. I smile. I've found the chink. Must be frustrating, having to move in a straight line, I call tauntingly after yet another failed attempt. I bet the rakeage doesn't have to do that. It's a pretty pitiful attempt at riling him up, all things considered, but it does the trick anyway. You brat. I shift to the side again as he flashes forward, but this time he stops just short of me. He belts out 3 more seals, finishing once more with the horse seal. Electro Grapple. His hands pull apart, still held in half-horse seals, and in the space between them a strand of electricity forms, grows taut and snaps. The writhing strands of chakra wrap around his hands, growing, until 2 half-horse seals are floating in front of his hands, connected to them by razor-thin strands of chakra. His hands clench into fists, and the 2 electric hands do the same. You have got to be kidding me. My sensei always used to tell me that a few inches of reach in close combat can be the difference between dodging a punch and getting dropped like a sack of bricks. He smirks darkly. What do you think? He closes the distance between us. The first swipe I leap back from. The second I bat aside after coating my arm in wind, but the electric fist punches right through my chakra film and my arm seizes, sending lances of pain arching up into my shoulder. I lurch away, hissing through clenched teeth as I shove more and more chakra through my appendage. This time, however, the trick doesn't work and my arm stays unresponsive. Looks like your wind didn't cut it that time, the nuke Nin observes gleefully. Getting tired? Getting tired of listening to your voice, I say, but the strain in my own gives me away. He presses his advantage enthusiastically, aiming again and again for my usable arm and attempting to grab hold of me via my bum one whenever it comes flapping within reach. Finally, I don't put enough distance between us with my dancing and he punches me in the gut, electric fist and all. I fall for the 100th time, try to wrap my arms around my stomach, and realize that I can't move my arms. I pull and pull and pull on what's left of my chakra, desperately trying to counter the right jutsu wreaking havoc on my muscles, and nearly scream at the feel of 1,000 Saban being shoved into my arms and legs and stomach over and over. I have to admit, kid, my opponent says, that wasn't half bad. Especially for your first mission. Not bad at all. A sizzling sound drifts through the air. In fact, I'd go so far as to say you've earned an honorable death. He chuckles. No need to thank me. I redouble my efforts to stand, and the sharp pain in my stomach intensifies. I see more than feel one arm, the one scorched by the Nukanin's jutsu, twitch, but not quite rise. Damn it, move. I push harder, somehow shift my other hand underneath me. I turn my head, hawk, and spit out a glob of vomit blood. See you in hell, he jeers. Too soon. I still can't move. It's too soon. Electro dash. He stops abruptly. I hear a muffled thump, a cry of pain. A snarl reaches my ears as I struggle up onto my hands and knees, and when I lift my head I see the dog that had tried to pull me away from Kakashi's water dragons wrestling with the Nukanin, jaw clamped over the bloody wound in his shoulder that the mastiff had left behind. I force myself to one knee. Electricity dances along the Nukanin's biceps, and he reaches around and wraps a muscled arm around the dog's neck. I stagger to my feet. A sickening crunch and a pained yelp both erupt from the dog, and it disappears in a cloud of smoke. The Nukanin slumps, panting heavily and reeling from the surprise attack. Blood flows faster and stronger from his shoulder, covering his chest and arm in a dark red sheet and staining his chunin vest. He sways woozily, clutching his head. There's a window if I ever saw one. My feet move arduously forward, one after the other, slowly at first. As I wrest the last of my chakra free, however, I move into a slow jog. The Nukanin looks up, locks eyes with me. Rage twists his features into something less than human. You think you can beat me? You think you and your sensei's stupid dogs can win? I'll kill you! He slaps his hands together, forming clumsy hand seals. I pick up speed, feeling the stabbing pain in my arms and legs give way to a mere uncomfortable ache. The distance between us closes to 20 feet. 10 feet. The Nukanin from Kumos flits through his last seal and clasps his hands together. A screeching blade springs to life between them. I reach into my weapon's pouch and pull out my last kunai. 5 feet. He raises the blade above his head. My vision narrows down to his bared throat. One shot. My foot slips. The mud slides my right foot sharply to the side, and I find myself too close to recovered. It's too late to dart in and stab him. I don't have time to think as he swings down. I grab hold of all my chakra, digging past the clenching pain and seeming emptiness, and twist. Wind explodes around me, slamming into my side and sending me spinning. I spin once, twice, 3 times. A shining blue blur appears in my vision. Electro axe. I lunge upward. The jutsu hits the cyclone of wind surrounding me like a raging bijou, and almost stops me in my tracks. Almost. The wind roars in my ears, and I follow through. Stray sparks of electricity dribble feebly from his limp hands, mingling with the moaning remnants of my chakra. The Nukanin stares at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. He opens his mouth, but only blood comes out of it. I let go of my kunai, and he falls back, sinking into the mud with a squelch. Bright crimson blood from his throat and his shoulder pull together, staining the already ruined soil. I stand there and watch it all drain out of him. The color from his cheeks, the blood from his body, the light from his eyes. When he's gone, I reach down and slide his eyelids shut. Why, I can't say. A door crashes open, and I see Sasuke storm out of it dragging a skeleton of a teenager along with him by the hair. I watch as the teen begs and pleads and sobs in a high, reedy voice. I watch as Sasuke stops in a particularly muddy patch of soil and wraps a hand around the back of the teen's throat. And I watch as he shoves the rogue shinobi's face into the mud and holds it there, until he stops thrashing and his body goes limp. Naruto? Someone calls, far away. Naruto? They call again, equally distant. But when I turn, Sakura is right there. Her breath hitches. What happened? She asks. He shocked me, I croak. It hurts to talk, I realize. A lot. I wince, placing a hand on my stomach. The stabbing pain is still there, and it's growing worse. My stomach hurts, I mumble. I'll go get Kakashi-sensei, she says hurriedly. Just wait here. He'll know what to do. And just like that she takes off. I consider following her, despite her words, but after the first step I decide it's far too much effort. Instead I focus on Sasuke, who's staring right back at me with something like concern in his eye. Hey Sasuke. I say hoarsely. He raises an eyebrow. Told you I could take him. He snorts, opening his mouth to retort, and freezes. His eyes fly open wide, fixing on something over my shoulder. Naruto. A hand grips the collar of my shirt, cold leather brushes against the back of my neck, and I'm yanked off my feet. An orange, swirling mask and a crimson red eye fill my vision, and then my world is swallowed up in darkness. I inhale sharply and my whole body tenses up against the will of my screaming muscles, but the pain I'm expecting never comes. Instead, I hear the sound of displaced air around me and feel the hand holding onto my collar, and nothing else. I reach up and strain against the hand on my shirt, but it doesn't budge. Maybe I could have budged a few fingers and wiggled free if I wasn't such a wreck. And then what would I have done? My gaze flickers wildly, side to side, up and down, everywhere. Nothing but black. Worst case scenario, whatever it is that's making me slide through the ground like it isn't even there would disappear and I'd suffocate in the ground. Best case scenario, Suddenly my senses come rushing back to me all at once. The sound of sandaled feet landing lightly on stone, the smell of damp earth, a chill on my skin. It all rushes back to me in a single disorienting instant, and I don't even have a chance of recovering in time when my captor throws me forward. My head slams into something solid, and I swear to God if this doesn't stop soon I'm investing in a helmet. I moan, the sound nearly overtaken by the persistent ringing in my ears and the nauseating taste of my own blood flooding my mouth. A moment later a light comes alive, glowing blue and fierce and flickering like a flame over the sleek leather of my captor's gloved hand, clearly illuminating the bizarre orange mask covering their whole face aside from the crimson eye and the pitch-black cloak covering the rest of their body. Through the pain and confusion, something in the back of my mind starts screaming at me. Danger. Chakra isn't supposed to be that bright. Pure chakra rarely makes it to a dim glow all by itself. That means one of two things. Either they're about to use a jutsu on me, or they're just that strong. Hello Naruto-kun, a smooth, male voice says. It reminds me of the old man, weirdly enough. All calm and confidence. You have my apologies. Hurting children has never sat well with me, but this time it was necessary. How? I try to ask, but only a pained gurgle makes the trip. Then he answers my question anyway, kneeling down beside me and dipping a finger in the little puddle of blood formed by the little stream trickling down my cheek. I try and jerk to the side, kick him in the balls, something. But my body is just too beat, and some frantic little twitches are all I get while he finger paints on my forehead with my blood. A little shock erupts from his hand a few seconds later, and even twitching is taken out of the equation as my arms and legs lock, refusing to respond to my commands. There we go, he says, satisfied, and rocks back on his heels. What dash? I start, thankfully still in control of my tongue, but stop short as the answer hits me. You sealed me, I breath. The mask bobs. Indeed. Another necessary measure, I'm afraid. Then he reaches out with his non-shiny hand and rips my shirt off with one short jerk, revealing my bruised stomach in all its glory. He places a hand on my navel, and another little shock runs through me. The seal comes swirling into being and my captor inhales sharply, his single eyes widening. He traces a finger over it, sending a couple more shocks of chakra through my skin at seemingly random intervals. There it is, he murmurs, almost disbelievingly. His finger spirals inward with the seal. You cannot possibly know how long I've been looking for you, Naruto-kun. I'd like to say I feel the same way, I say through grit teeth. He isn't putting any particular force on my stomach with his prodding, but it hurts. The man doesn't respond, but his eye crinkles in a gesture disturbingly similar to Kakashi. You could at least tell me your name. Or buy me dinner first. That's only fair, I mutter sourly. The mask cocks, and the eye rises from my stomach to stare at me, the amusement gone. A single bloody orb stares unreadably at me. I don't even breath. Hirokazu, he finally says, turning back to my stomach and resuming his poking. You can call me Kazu, though, he adds after a thoughtful silence.